What if I told you that hidden within the vaults of ancient libraries, tucked away in forgotten corners of museums, and scattered across private collections around the world, there exist maps that shouldn't exist? Maps that show coastlines, continents, and islands with a precision that defies everything we've been taught about ancient navigation and exploration. Maps that depict Antarctica without ice, South America with startling accuracy, and land masses that modern satellites have only recently confirmed beneath miles of ocean water. Welcome, seekers of hidden truths, to a journey that will challenge the very foundations of what you think you know about human history. I'm your guide through the shadows of our forgotten past, where conventional timelines crumble and impossible artifacts whisper of civilizations that flourished long before our accepted dawn of human achievement. Tonight, we're diving deep into one of archaeology's most controversial mysteries, one that mainstream academia desperately wants to ignore. Because if these ancient maps are authentic, if they truly show what they appear to show, then everything we've been told about the development of human civilization is a carefully constructed lie. These aren't just old pieces of parchment, they're smoking guns that point to a shocking truth: that thousands of years ago, before the great floods that mythology speaks of across every culture on Earth, there existed a global empire with knowledge and capabilities that rival our own. Close your eyes and imagine standing in the map room of a 16th century European monastery, the air thick with the scent of aged parchment and candle wax. Before you lies a chart that will rewrite history if anyone dares to listen. The Piri Reis map of 1513, drawn by an Ottoman admiral who claimed to have based his work on ancient source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This map shows the coast of South America with impossible accuracy, depicts Antarctica's ice-free coastline, and includes details that wouldn't be officially discovered by modern explorers for another 400 years. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. The level of mathematical precision required to create such accurate representations of our planet's geography would have demanded advanced knowledge of spherical trigonometry, longitude calculation, and global surveying techniques that we're told didn't exist until the 18th century. Yet there it was, drawn on gazelle skin in 1513, showing coastlines that modern cartographers confirm are accurate to within half a degree. The implications are staggering. Either Admiral Piri Reis possessed supernatural powers of geographical divination, or he had access to source materials created by a civilization with technology and global reach that predates our accepted timeline by millennia. And this is just the beginning. The Piri Reis map is not an isolated anomaly. It's part of a collection of impossible cartographic evidence that points to something far more extraordinary than most people are prepared to accept. In the dusty archives of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, researchers have uncovered fragments of maps that show impossible detail of regions that official history claims were unknown to ancient peoples. The Haji Ahmed map of 1559 depicts the Pacific coast of North America with startling accuracy, showing the Bering Strait and the Alaskan coastline centuries before these areas were supposedly first mapped by European explorers. The Orontius Phineas map of 1531 shows Antarctica not as the ice-covered continent we know today, but as a landmass with rivers, mountains, and coastlines that match the actual bedrock beneath miles of ice. These aren't crude approximations or lucky guesses. These are sophisticated, mathematically precise representations of our planet that would have required a global surveying effort on a scale that modern historians insist was impossible for ancient civilizations. The accuracy extends beyond simple coastline mapping. These ancient charts show longitude measurements, a feat that required precise timekeeping technology that we're told wasn't developed until the invention of the marine chronometer in the 1760s. But wait, there's more. Hidden within the Vatican's secret archives, locked away from public scrutiny, are additional cartographic treasures that church officials refuse to discuss. Scholars who have gained rare access to these materials speak in hushed tones of maps that show the world as it existed before the great catastrophes that reshaped our planet's geography. Maps that depict land bridges where now only ocean exists, coastlines that match geological surveys of the ocean floor, and island chains that correspond to underwater mountain ranges discovered only in the last century. The mathematical implications alone should be keeping historians awake at night. To create accurate maps of the entire globe, ancient cartographers would have needed to solve the problem of projecting a three-dimensional sphere onto a two-dimensional surface. This requires advanced understanding of geometry, trigonometry, and the precise circumference of the Earth. Yet we're supposed to believe that the same civilizations that created these impossibly accurate maps were still struggling with basic agricultural techniques and hadn't yet invented the wheel in many parts of the world. The precision of these ancient maps becomes even more mysterious when we examine their projection methods. Many utilize mathematical techniques that weren't officially developed until the Renaissance, and some employ projection systems that suggest their creators understood the Earth's exact dimensions with remarkable accuracy. The Mercator projection, named after the 16th century Flemish cartographer, appears in maps that predate Mercator by centuries. The stereographic projection, used to accurately represent polar regions, shows up in ancient charts depicting Antarctica with details that match modern satellite surveys of the continent's ice-free topography. Consider the logistical requirements for creating such maps. A global surveying project would have demanded coordinated expeditions to every continent, precise astronomical observations from multiple locations, and a communication network capable of consolidating geographical data from around the world. This suggests not just advanced technology, but a sophisticated organizational structure, a global civilization with the resources and motivation to chart the entire planet with scientific precision. The establishment's response to these inconvenient artifacts has been predictably dismissive. Mainstream archaeologists either ignore the maps entirely or attempt to explain them away as coincidental approximations, medieval fantasies, or misinterpretations of more conventional source materials. They claim that ancient navigators could have achieved such accuracy through a combination of stellar navigation, dead reckoning, and educated guesswork. But this explanation crumbles under scrutiny when we examine the mathematical precision of the longitude calculations and the accurate depiction of regions that remained unmapped by official explorers for centuries after these ancient charts were created. The cover-up extends beyond simple academic skepticism. Museums have quietly reclassified certain maps, moving them from public display to restricted archives. Private collectors report pressure to donate their cartographic treasures to institutions where they promptly disappear from public view. Libraries have mysteriously lost catalogue entries for maps that researchers had previously documented, and attempts to study these artifacts using modern analytical techniques are often blocked by bureaucratic obstacles and funding restrictions. But the evidence keeps surfacing, like ancient truth bubbling up through cracks in the official narrative. The Xenomap of 1380 shows Greenland and the North American Arctic with accuracy that wouldn't be achieved by official European explorers until the 19th century. The map includes details of the Greenland coastline that remained unknown to modern cartographers until aerial surveys in the 1940s revealed the ice-free topography beneath the glacial covering. Even more intriguing is the map's depiction of islands and landmasses in the North Atlantic that correspond to underwater plateaus and seamounts that have only been discovered through modern sonar mapping. These features would have been above sea level during the last ice age, when ocean levels were hundreds of feet lower than today. This suggests that the source materials for the Xenomap date back at least 10,000 years, to a time when these now submerged lands were accessible to ancient surveyors. The implications go far beyond simple geographical knowledge. These maps suggest the existence of a prehistoric civilization with global reach, advanced mathematical understanding, and sophisticated surveying technology. A civilization that not only mapped the world with precision that rivals modern satellite cartography, but did so during a period when conventional history tells us that humans were still living in primitive hunter-gatherer societies. The mathematical sophistication required for such precise global mapping cannot be overstated. Ancient cartographers would have needed to understand the Earth's circumference with accuracy comparable to measurements made by modern satellites. They would have required precise astronomical observations to determine latitude and some method of accurate timekeeping to calculate longitude. The surveying techniques necessary to map coastlines with such precision would have demanded instruments and methodologies that mainstream archaeology insists didn't exist until the Renaissance. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of these ancient maps is what they reveal about the catastrophic events that reshaped our planet's geography. Many of these charts show coastlines and land configurations that match geological evidence of the world as it existed before the end of the last ice age. They depict Antarctica without its ice covering, showing the actual topography of the continent that has been buried under miles of ice for thousands of years. They show land bridges and coastal configurations that existed when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than today. This suggests that whoever created the source materials for these maps was present to survey these regions before the great melting that raised global sea levels and reshaped the world's coastlines. Before the catastrophic floods that every ancient culture on Earth remembers in their mythology. Before the deluge that conventional historians dismiss as mere folklore, but which these maps suggest was a real, world-changing event that destroyed a global civilization and forced the survivors to preserve their knowledge in whatever forms they could. The pattern becomes undeniable when we examine multiple maps from different time periods and geographical origins. The consistency of the impossible details, the mathematical precision that spans centuries and cultures, the depiction of geographical features that shouldn't have been known to ancient peoples, all point to a common source, a library of geographical knowledge that was preserved and copied through the ages. Fragments of a global surveying project that mapped the entire world with scientific precision, thousands of years before conventional history claims such capabilities existed. Tonight, we're going to examine the evidence that mainstream archaeology doesn't want you to see. We'll explore the mathematical impossibilities that these maps represent, the geological conformations that prove their accuracy, and the historical implications that threaten to rewrite everything we think we know about human civilization. We'll investigate the deliberate suppression of this evidence, the institutional resistance to acknowledging these artifacts, and the lengths to which the establishment will go to maintain their carefully constructed timeline of human development. Because if these maps are authentic, if they truly represent the cartographic achievements of a prehistoric global civilization, then the implications are revolutionary. They suggest that human civilization is far older than we've been told, that our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities that rival our own, and that a sophisticated global empire existed on Earth long before the catastrophic events that reset human history and buried the evidence beneath rising seas and shifting continents. The truth is hidden in plain sight, scattered across museum archives and private collections, waiting for those brave enough to connect the dots and challenge the official narrative. These aren't just old maps, they're pieces of a puzzle that reveals the existence of a lost world, a prehistoric global empire that mapped every corner of our planet with precision that wouldn't be matched again for thousands of years. The mathematical precision of these ancient maps becomes even more extraordinary when we examine their treatment of the polar regions. The Orontius Phineus map of 1531 doesn't just show Antarctica as an ice-free continent, it depicts the landmass with rivers, mountain ranges, and coastal indentations that precisely match modern seismic surveys of the bedrock beneath 2 miles of ice. The map shows Antarctica connected to South America by a narrow land bridge, a geographical feature that geological evidence confirms existed when sea levels were lower during the last ice age. But here's what should make every historian's blood run cold. The map shows the correct proportional size of Antarctica relative to other continents, something that requires understanding the Earth's spherical geometry and the distortion effects of map projection. This isn't medieval guesswork or artistic interpretation. This is sophisticated mathematical cartography that demonstrates knowledge of advanced surveying techniques and global geographical relationships. The evidence becomes even more unsettling when we examine the Buach map of 1737, created by French geographer Philippe Buach. This chart shows Antarctica as two separate landmasses divided by a waterway, a detail that wasn't confirmed by modern Antarctic exploration until the 1958 International Geophysical Year revealed that Antarctica is indeed divided by the Transantarctic Mountains and would appear as two separate islands if the ice sheet were removed. Buach claimed his map was based on ancient source materials, fragments of charts that he discovered in the French Royal Library. The implications are staggering. How could 18th century cartographers, working with supposedly primitive source materials, accurately depict the geological structure of a continent that wouldn't be fully explored until the 20th century? How could they know details about Antarctica's ice-free topography that modern science only confirmed through ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys conducted in the last 50 years? The answer lies in the mathematical impossibility of coincidence. When we examine the statistical probability of ancient cartographers accidentally achieving such precision through guesswork, the numbers become astronomical. The accurate placement of coastlines, the correct proportional relationships between continents, the precise depiction of longitude measurements, all combine to create odds so remote that accepting coincidence requires more faith than accepting the evidence of advanced ancient knowledge. But the establishment's resistance to this evidence reveals something far more sinister than simple academic stubbornness. There's a systematic pattern of suppression, a coordinated effort to bury these cartographic treasures beneath layers of bureaucratic obfuscation and institutional denial. Maps that were once displayed in public exhibitions are quietly moved to restricted archives. Research grants are denied to scholars who pursue these lines of inquiry. Academic careers are destroyed for those who dare to challenge the conventional timeline with inconvenient evidence. The suppression extends to modern analytical techniques that could definitively date these maps and analyze their mathematical properties. Carbon dating requests are mysteriously delayed or denied. Spectroscopic analysis of inks and parchments is blocked by administrative obstacles. Computer modeling studies that could verify the mathematical precision of ancient projection methods are defunded or discredited. It's as if there's a deliberate campaign to prevent modern science from examining these artifacts too closely. Yet the evidence continues to surface, like fragments of truth breaking through a dam of official denial. The Dulcet Portolan chart of 1339 shows the Mediterranean and Black Sea coastlines with accuracy that rivals modern satellite mapping. The chart includes longitude markings that demonstrate precise understanding of the Earth's rotational geometry, knowledge that conventional history claims wasn't developed until the invention of accurate marine chronometers 4 centuries later. The mathematical grid underlying the chart reveals trigonometric calculations that suggest its creators understood spherical geometry with remarkable sophistication. Even more disturbing is the chart's depiction of islands and coastal features that match underwater archaeological discoveries made only in recent decades. Submerged ruins, underwater roadways, and drowned cities that correspond exactly to geographical features shown on this 14th century map. Features that would have been above sea level thousands of years ago, before the great melting that raised ocean levels and submerged vast areas of the ancient world. The pattern repeats across multiple cartographic traditions. Chinese maps from the Ming Dynasty show Pacific Ocean islands and atolls with precision that suggests systematic surveying efforts spanning vast distances. Islamic charts from medieval Baghdad depict the Indian Ocean, with mathematical accuracy that demonstrates advanced understanding of spherical navigation. Norse maps show Arctic coastlines and ice-free passages that correspond to geological evidence of climate conditions that existed millennia before Viking exploration. The technological requirements for creating such precise global maps cannot be dismissed or explained away by conventional theories of ancient capabilities. These charts demonstrate knowledge of longitude calculation that requires accurate timekeeping, understanding of the Earth's precise circumference that demands sophisticated astronomical observation, and global surveying coordination that suggests advanced communication networks spanning continents and oceans. Consider the logistical impossibility of achieving such precision through primitive methods. Ancient navigators, working with simple tools like astrolabes and magnetic compasses, could never have achieved the mathematical accuracy displayed in these charts. The precision of longitude measurements alone would have required chronometric devices accurate to within seconds, technology that we're told wasn't invented until the 18th century. Yet here we have maps from centuries earlier that demonstrate such precision across global distances. The mathematical analysis becomes even more compelling when we examine the projection methods used in these ancient charts. Many employ stereographic projections that accurately represent polar regions, mathematical techniques that require advanced understanding of spherical geometry and trigonometric calculations. Others use equivalent projections that preserve accurate area relationships between continents, mathematical achievements that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of global geographical proportions. The Cantino planisphere of 1502 shows the newly discovered Americas with detail that supposedly couldn't have been achieved through the limited exploration that had occurred by that date. The map depicts the Caribbean islands, the South American coastline, and even portions of the North American coast, with accuracy that suggests comprehensive surveying efforts far beyond the scope of Columbus's voyages. The chart includes longitude lines that demonstrate precise mathematical understanding of global positioning, knowledge that conventional history claims didn't exist among European navigators of that era. But perhaps the most explosive evidence lies in the maps that show regions that weren't officially discovered until modern times. Charts that depict Pacific islands, Arctic passages, and Antarctic coastlines centuries before these areas were supposedly first explored by European expeditions. Maps that show geographical features later confirmed by satellite surveys and underwater archaeological discoveries. Evidence that suggests ancient cartographers had access to comprehensive geographical knowledge of the entire planet. The institutional response to this evidence has been predictably defensive. Museum curators reclassify controversial maps, moving them from public galleries to restricted research facilities. Academic journals refuse to publish papers that challenge conventional timelines with cartographic evidence. Conferences on ancient navigation systematically exclude presentations that discuss the mathematical impossibilities of these precision maps. It's as if there's a coordinated effort to maintain the official narrative at all costs. The suppression extends to modern educational curricula that ignore these cartographic treasures entirely. Textbooks on the history of exploration fail to mention maps that predate official discovery dates by centuries. University courses on ancient civilizations skip over evidence of advanced mathematical and surveying capabilities. Students graduate with degrees in archaeology and anthropology without ever hearing about the cartographic anomalies that challenge everything they've been taught about human technological development. Yet the mathematical evidence remains undeniable for those willing to examine it objectively. Computer analysis of these ancient maps reveals projection techniques, coordinate systems, and mathematical relationships that demonstrate knowledge far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient civilizations. The precision isn't approximate or accidental. It's systematic and sophisticated, suggesting the work of a global civilization with technological capabilities that we're only beginning to understand. The implications extend far beyond simple geographical knowledge. These maps suggest the existence of a prehistoric global empire with advanced mathematical understanding, sophisticated surveying technology, and organizational capabilities that enabled systematic mapping of the entire planet. a civilization that not only possessed knowledge rivaling our own, but managed to preserve fragments of that knowledge through catastrophic events that reshaped the world's geography and reset human history. The evidence is scattered across museums and private collections, hidden in plain sight, waiting for researchers brave enough to connect the mathematical dots and challenge the institutional resistance to acknowledging these inconvenient truths. Each map is a piece of a larger puzzle that reveals the existence of a lost world, a prehistoric global civilization that mapped every corner of our planet with precision that wouldn't be matched again for thousands of years. But the most disturbing aspect of this evidence isn't just what these maps reveal about ancient capabilities. It's what they suggest about the catastrophic events that destroyed this global empire and buried its achievements beneath rising seas and shifting continents. Maps that show the world as it existed before the great floods, before the ice melted and ocean levels rose, before the geological upheavals that conventional history dismisses as gradual climate change, but which these cartographic treasures suggest were sudden catastrophic events that reset human civilization and forced survivors to preserve their knowledge in whatever forms they could manage. The mathematical precision of these ancient charts isn't just evidence of advanced knowledge. It's testimony to a lost world whose technological achievements were buried beneath the rising waters of a global deluge that every ancient culture remembers, but which modern academia refuses to acknowledge as historical reality. The geometric precision embedded within these ancient cartographic treasures reveals mathematical relationships that shouldn't exist in any pre-modern civilization. When we analyze the coordinate grids underlying maps like the Andrea Bianco chart of 1436, we discover trigonometric calculations that demonstrate understanding of spherical mathematics centuries before these concepts were supposedly developed by Renaissance scholars. The chart's projection system accurately compensates for the Earth's curvature using mathematical formulas that conventional history claims weren't discovered until the 16th century. But here's where the evidence becomes truly explosive. Hidden within the mathematical framework of these ancient maps are coordinate systems that align perfectly with modern satellite positioning data. The Laurentian Atlas of 1351 uses a grid system that, when analyzed by computer modeling, reveals longitude calculations accurate to within minutes of arc. This level of precision would have required not just advanced mathematical knowledge, but global positioning techniques that could synchronize geographical measurements across vast distances with chronometric accuracy. The implications cascade through every assumption we've made about ancient technological capabilities. To achieve such mathematical precision, ancient cartographers would have needed to solve the fundamental problem of determining exact position on a spherical Earth. This requires understanding of celestial mechanics, precise astronomical observation, and most critically, accurate measurement of time intervals across global distances. Yet we're supposed to believe that civilizations capable of such mathematical sophistication were simultaneously struggling with basic metallurgy and hadn't yet developed written language in many regions of the world. The pattern of suppression becomes more sinister when we examine how modern institutions handle requests to study these maps using advanced analytical techniques. Researchers seeking to apply computer modeling to ancient projection systems find their grant applications mysteriously rejected. Universities that attempt to organize symposiums on prehistoric cartography discover sudden budget cuts that force cancellation of their conferences. Academic journals that accept papers analyzing the mathematical impossibilities of ancient maps face pressure from editorial boards to retract or refuse publication. The cover-up extends into the highest levels of archaeological and historical institutions. The Smithsonian Institution has quietly reclassified several Native American maps that show impossible geographical knowledge, moving them from public exhibition to restricted storage facilities. The British Museum has restricted access to medieval Islamic charts that demonstrate advanced understanding of global navigation techniques centuries before such knowledge was supposedly developed. Private collectors report visits from government officials who strongly encourage donation of controversial cartographic materials to institutions where they promptly disappear from public access. Yet despite this systematic suppression, the mathematical evidence continues to surface through independent research and digital analysis. The Ibn Battuta map fragments, recently discovered in a Damascus monastery, show trade routes across the Indian Ocean that include islands and atolls whose positions match modern GPS coordinates with startling accuracy. The map includes notations in Arabic numerals that describe longitude calculations using mathematical techniques that weren't officially developed until the European age of exploration, centuries after Ibn Battuta's death. Even more disturbing are the maps that show geographical features that match underwater archaeological discoveries made only in recent decades. The Kosa map of 1500 depicts Caribbean islands and coastal indentations that correspond exactly to submerged ruins discovered by marine archaeologists using deep-sea submersibles. Features that would have been above sea level during the last ice age, when ocean levels were hundreds of feet lower than today. This suggests that the source materials for these Renaissance maps date back thousands of years, to a time when these now drowned lands were accessible to ancient surveyors. The technological requirements become even more staggering when we examine maps that show accurate depictions of magnetic declination, the difference between magnetic north and true north that varies by geographical location. The Vinland map, despite academic controversies over its authenticity, demonstrates understanding of magnetic variation that requires systematic observation from multiple global positions. Ancient navigators would have needed to maintain precise records of compass readings across vast distances, correlating magnetic measurements with astronomical observations to create the correction tables necessary for accurate navigation. This level of scientific methodology suggests not just advanced individual knowledge, but coordinated research efforts involving multiple observers across different continents. A global network of scientific observation that implies sophisticated communication systems, standardized measurement techniques, and institutional structures capable of maintaining accurate records across generations. The organizational requirements alone point to a civilization with technological infrastructure that rivals modern scientific institutions. The mathematical analysis becomes even more compelling when we examine the statistical impossibility of achieving such accuracy through primitive methods. Computer modeling of ancient navigation techniques using only the tools and methods that conventional history attributes to these periods produces error margins that are orders of magnitude larger than the precision demonstrated in these maps. The probability of accidentally achieving such accuracy through guesswork or primitive observation methods approaches mathematical impossibility. Consider the challenge of accurately mapping the Amazon River system, as shown in several pre-Columbian charts discovered in monastery archives across Europe. These maps depict tributaries, river bends, and topographical features that match modern satellite surveys of the rainforest canopy. The precision extends to mathematical relationships between river lengths, drainage patterns, and watershed boundaries that demonstrate systematic surveying of a river system spanning thousands of miles through dense jungle terrain. The logistical impossibility of such surveying efforts using primitive technology cannot be overstated. Ancient explorers working with simple boats and basic navigation tools could never have penetrated deep enough into the Amazon basin to map its complete river system with such precision. The surveying would have required coordinated expeditions involving hundreds of individuals, sophisticated communication methods to consolidate geographical data, and mathematical techniques to accurately plot river courses across vast distances without modern surveying instruments. Yet there the maps exist, showing the Amazon with detail that wasn't officially achieved by European explorers until the 19th century. Maps that were created centuries before Columbus ever set foot in the Americas, based on source materials that must have originated from systematic exploration and surveying efforts that predate accepted timelines of human technological development by millennia, the evidence extends beyond simple geographical accuracy to include sophisticated understanding of geological processes and climate patterns. Ancient maps show ice-free passages through Arctic regions that correspond to climate data indicating warmer periods in Earth's history. Charts depicting Siberian river systems include seasonal variation notations that demonstrate understanding of permafrost cycles and ice formation patterns that require long-term climatological observation. The Catalan Atlas of 1375 shows the African continent with interior details that supposedly weren't known to European cartographers until the 19th century exploration expeditions. The map includes accurate depictions of the Niger River's course, the location of major African cities, and trade routes across the Sahara Desert that demonstrate comprehensive knowledge of continental geography. Mathematical analysis of the map's projection system reveals coordinate calculations that achieve accuracy comparable to modern satellite mapping. But perhaps the most explosive evidence lies in maps that show technological infrastructure that shouldn't have existed in ancient times. Charts that depict what appear to be canal systems, artificial harbours, and engineered waterways that match underwater archaeological discoveries of advanced construction projects. The precision of these infrastructure depictions suggests not just geographical knowledge, but understanding of hydraulic engineering and large-scale construction techniques that conventional history claims weren't developed until much later periods. The mathematical sophistication extends to understanding of tidal patterns, ocean currents, and seasonal navigation conditions that demonstrate systematic observation of maritime phenomena across global distances. Ancient charts include notations describing optimal sailing seasons, current directions, and wind patterns that match modern oceanographic data with remarkable precision. This knowledge would have required coordinated observation from multiple oceanic regions, sophisticated data compilation methods, and mathematical analysis of complex meteorological and hydrological systems. The institutional resistance to acknowledging this evidence has reached levels of deliberate obfuscation that suggest something far more significant than simple academic conservatism. Research funding is systematically denied to projects that might definitively prove the mathematical sophistication of ancient cartography. Access to controversial maps is restricted through bureaucratic obstacles that effectively prevent independent verification of their precision. Academic careers are quietly destroyed for scholars who persist in pursuing these lines of investigation. The pattern suggests a coordinated effort to maintain conventional historical timelines at all costs, even in the face of mathematical evidence that definitively disproves accepted theories of ancient technological capabilities. Museum curators report pressure from administrative superiors to downplay the significance of cartographic anomalies. Publishers face economic pressure to avoid releasing books that challenge conventional archaeological timelines with mathematical evidence. Conference organizers discover unexpected cancellations when their symposiums focus too heavily on prehistoric technological achievements. Yet the mathematical truth remains embedded in these ancient charts, waiting for researchers brave enough to apply rigorous analytical techniques despite institutional resistance. Computer modeling reveals projection systems that demonstrate advanced understanding of spherical geometry. Statistical analysis confirms precision levels that are mathematically impossible to achieve through primitive observation methods. Coordinate system analysis reveals global positioning techniques that require technological capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient civilizations. The evidence points to a shocking conclusion that mainstream academia refuses to acknowledge. These maps are not isolated anomalies or fortunate accidents of primitive exploration. They represent fragments of a comprehensive global surveying project that map the entire planet with mathematical precision that wouldn't be matched again for thousands of years. A surveying effort that could only have been accomplished by a technologically advanced civilization with global reach, sophisticated organizational structures, and mathematical knowledge that rivals our own. the implications extend far beyond simple geographical knowledge to suggest the existence of a prehistoric global empire with technological capabilities that have been systematically hidden from public awareness. An empire that mapped every corner of our planet, understood complex mathematical relationships governing global geography, and possessed surveying technology that enabled precision mapping across continental distances. A civilization whose achievements were buried beneath catastrophic events that reshaped the Earth's geography and forced survivors to preserve fragments of their knowledge in whatever forms they could manage. The mathematical evidence is undeniable for those willing to examine it objectively, despite the institutional pressures that seek to suppress such investigation. These ancient maps represent testimony to a lost world whose technological achievements challenge every assumption we've been taught about human development and the timeline of civilization itself. The disturbing truth becomes even more apparent when we examine the cartographic evidence for ancient knowledge of continental drift and plate tectonics. The Bausch map of 1737, based on what the French geographer claimed were ancient memoirs, shows the continental shelves and underwater mountain ranges with precision that wasn't achieved by modern oceanography until the development of sonar mapping in the 20th century. The map depicts the mid-Atlantic ridge, the underwater mountain chain that runs down the center of the Atlantic Ocean, with mathematical accuracy that demonstrates understanding of seafloor topography thousands of years before such knowledge was supposedly possible. But here's what should terrify every guardian of conventional history. The map shows these underwater features not as they exist today, but as they would have appeared when sea levels were dramatically lower. The continental shelves are depicted as exposed land masses, connected by land bridges, that geological evidence confirms existed during the last ice age. This isn't speculative reconstruction based on limited data. This is precise cartographic representation of geographical conditions that existed over 10,000 years ago. The mathematical implications become even more staggering when we realize that accurately mapping underwater topography would have required systematic depth measurements across oceanic distances. Ancient cartographers would have needed sophisticated sounding techniques, coordinated surveying expeditions, and mathematical methods for calculating underwater contours and seafloor elevations. The precision displayed in these charts suggests surveying technology that could measure ocean depths with accuracy comparable to modern sonar systems. The evidence extends beyond simple depth measurements to include understanding of ocean current patterns, thermal layers, and deep-sea geological formations. Medieval Islamic charts show current flows in the Indian Ocean that match modern oceanographic data with startling precision. These maps include notations describing seasonal variations in current strength, temperature changes at different depths, and navigational hazards associated with underwater geological features. Knowledge that would have required systematic observation using instruments and techniques that conventional history insists didn't exist until the modern era. The suppression of this evidence has reached levels of deliberate falsification that suggest something far more sinister than academic oversight. Museums have quietly altered the dating of controversial maps, changing catalogue entries to make anomalous charts appear less ancient than originally documented. Research institutions have reclassified entire collections, moving them from public access to restricted archives where independent verification becomes impossible. Academic papers analysing the mathematical precision of ancient cartography have been retroactively withdrawn from journals, with authors pressured to disavow their own research findings. The pattern of institutional resistance becomes more disturbing when we examine the systematic destruction of evidence that has occurred over the past century. Libraries report mysterious fires that specifically target cartographic collections. Private collectors describe burglaries where only ancient maps are stolen, leaving valuable artworks and jewellery untouched. Archaeological expeditions discover ancient charts in sealed chambers, only to have their findings confiscated by government authorities and classified as matters of national security. Yet, despite this coordinated suppression, new evidence continues to surface through digital analysis and independent research. High-resolution scanning of ancient parchments reveals hidden layers of information, mathematical notations, and coordinate systems that were invisible to previous examination methods. Computer enhancement of faded ink reveals detailed geographical features that demonstrate knowledge far beyond the supposed capabilities of ancient civilizations. The Erbsdorf map, created in the 13th century and tragically destroyed during World War II, survived only in photographic reproductions that modern digital enhancement has revealed to contain impossible geographical precision. The map showed trade routes across Asia that include mountain passes, river crossings, and geographical landmarks that match modern satellite surveys with mathematical accuracy. Hidden within the decorative elements of the map were coordinate grids that demonstrate understanding of global positioning techniques centuries before such knowledge was supposedly developed. The mathematical sophistication becomes even more apparent when we examine maps that show accurate understanding of the Earth's magnetic field and its variations across different geographical regions. Ancient charts include correction factors for magnetic declination that match modern measurements of the planet's magnetic field, strength, and direction. This knowledge would have required systematic observation from multiple global positions, sophisticated instruments for measuring magnetic variation, and mathematical techniques for calculating correction tables that enable accurate navigation across vast distances. The technological requirements for such precision cannot be explained by conventional theories of ancient capabilities. Measuring magnetic declination with the accuracy displayed in these charts would have required instruments sensitive enough to detect minute variations in the Earth's magnetic field. Ancient navigators would have needed to correlate magnetic readings with astronomical observations, maintain precise records across multiple voyages, and develop mathematical formulas for compensating magnetic variation based on geographical position. Consider the challenge of accurately mapping the coastlines of Greenland, as shown in several medieval European charts that predate official Norse exploration by centuries. These maps depict the ice-free coastline of Greenland with precision that matches modern surveys of the bedrock beneath the island's glacial covering. The mathematical accuracy extends to detailed representation of fjords, coastal indentations, and offshore islands that weren't officially discovered until aerial surveys in the 20th century revealed the actual topography hidden beneath miles of ice. The implications are revolutionary. These maps suggest that ancient cartographers surveyed Greenland during a period when the island was free of its current ice covering, a climatic condition that geological evidence indicates existed thousands of years ago. The precision of the coastal mapping would have required systematic surveying expeditions that penetrated deep into regions that have been inaccessible due to ice coverage throughout recorded history. The evidence extends to maps showing accurate depictions of Antarctic mountain ranges, river systems, and geological features that have been buried beneath ice sheets for millennia. The Orientaeus-Phineus map doesn't just show Antarctica as an ice-free continent. It depicts specific geographical features that match seismic surveys of the bedrock topography, with mathematical precision that defies explanation through conventional theories of ancient exploration. The mathematical analysis reveals coordinate systems that demonstrate understanding of spherical trigonometry, advanced projection techniques, and global positioning methods that require technological capabilities far beyond what mainstream archaeology attributes to ancient civilizations. Computer modeling of the projection systems used in these maps reveals mathematical relationships that weren't officially discovered until the development of modern cartographic science. But perhaps the most explosive evidence lies in maps that show geographical features that have only been confirmed through modern satellite archaeology and underwater exploration. Charts that depict submerged cities, drowned coastlines, and underwater ruins that correspond exactly to archaeological discoveries made using deep-sea submersibles and ground-penetrating radar, features that would have been above sea level during the last ice age, when ocean levels were hundreds of feet lower than today. The Ptolemy maps, based on geographical knowledge that the ancient Greek scholar claimed to have inherited from even more ancient sources, show the Mediterranean and Black Sea regions with accuracy that includes underwater topographical features discovered only through modern sonar mapping. The maps depict submerged islands, underwater mountain ranges, and drowned river valleys that match geological surveys of the seafloor with precision that suggests direct observation when these features were above water level. The institutional response to this evidence has escalated to levels of active suppression that suggest coordination between academic, governmental, and international organizations. Research proposals investigating the mathematical precision of ancient cartography are systematically rejected by funding agencies. Universities that attempt to organize conferences on prehistoric technological achievements face sudden budget cuts and administrative obstacles. Academic journals refuse to publish papers that challenge conventional timelines with mathematical evidence from ancient maps. The suppression extends to digital archives and online databases that have quietly removed references to controversial cartographic materials. Museum websites have altered catalogue descriptions to downplay the significance of anomalous maps. Academic databases have retroactively classified research papers as restricted access, preventing independent scholars from accessing mathematical analyses of ancient cartographic precision. Yet the mathematical evidence remains embedded in these ancient charts, immune to institutional attempts at suppression or revisionist interpretation. Statistical analysis confirms precision levels that are mathematically impossible to achieve through primitive observation methods. Computer modeling reveals projection systems that demonstrate advanced understanding of global geography and spherical mathematics. Coordinate system analysis shows positioning techniques that require technological capabilities that conventional history claims didn't exist until the modern era. The evidence points to a conclusion that threatens the very foundations of accepted historical timelines. These maps represent fragments of a comprehensive global surveying project that mapped the entire planet with mathematical precision during a period when conventional history claims human civilization was limited to primitive agricultural settlements and basic toolmaking. A surveying effort that could only have been accomplished by a technologically advanced global civilization with sophisticated organizational structures, advanced mathematical knowledge, and surveying technology that rivals modern satellite mapping systems. The mathematical precision isn't approximate or accidental. It's systematic and sophisticated, demonstrating knowledge of spherical geometry, trigonometric calculations, and global positioning techniques that suggest the work of a civilization with technological capabilities that have been systematically hidden from public awareness. A civilization that not only possessed advanced knowledge of global geography, but managed to preserve fragments of that knowledge through catastrophic events that reshaped the Earth's surface and buried evidence of their achievements beneath rising seas and shifting continents. The implications extend far beyond simple geographical knowledge to suggest the existence of a prehistoric global empire with technological infrastructure, communication networks, and organizational capabilities that enabled systematic mapping of the entire planet. An empire whose mathematical achievements challenge every assumption we've been taught about human technological development and the timeline of civilization itself. The truth lies scattered across museum archives and private collections, encoded in mathematical relationships that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. Each map is a fragment of evidence pointing to a lost world whose technological achievements were so advanced that acknowledging their existence would require complete revision of human history and the capabilities of ancient civilizations. The mathematical evidence is undeniable, the precision is measurable, and the implications are revolutionary. These ancient maps represent testimony to a forgotten global empire that mapped every corner of our planet with accuracy that wouldn't be matched again for thousands of years, preserving their knowledge in cartographic form to survive the catastrophic events that destroyed their civilization and reset human history. But the most disturbing aspect of this evidence isn't just what these maps reveal about ancient technological capabilities. It's what they suggest about the systematic suppression of this knowledge by modern institutions that seem determined to maintain conventional historical narratives regardless of mathematical evidence to the contrary. The pattern of suppression, the coordinated resistance to investigation, and the deliberate obfuscation of mathematical precision that threatens accepted timelines suggests something far more significant than simple academic conservatism. These maps aren't just evidence of advanced ancient knowledge, they're proof of a global civilization whose achievements have been deliberately hidden from public awareness, buried beneath layers of institutional denial and academic suppression that serve to maintain historical narratives that may be fundamentally false. The mathematical truth embedded in these ancient charts represents a challenge to everything we've been taught about human development, technological progress, and the timeline of civilization itself. The mathematical evidence becomes even more damning when we examine the coordinate systems hidden within illuminated manuscripts and religious texts that were never intended to be cartographic documents. Medieval monastery records contain marginal notations that, when decoded, reveal longitude calculations accurate to within seconds of arc. These aren't random decorative elements or theological commentary. They're systematic geographical data embedded within religious manuscripts by scribes who understood they were preserving knowledge far more ancient and precious than the sacred texts they were copying. Hidden within the Book of Kells, that masterpiece of Irish monastic art from the 8th century, digital analysis has revealed coordinate grids woven into the decorative patterns. The mathematical relationships encoded in the illuminated borders correspond to precise geographical measurements of the British Isles, including offshore islands and coastal features that weren't officially mapped until centuries later. The precision extends to tidal calculations and seasonal navigation data that demonstrates understanding of complex maritime phenomena. But here's where the evidence becomes truly explosive. These coordinate systems don't just show local geographical knowledge, they contain reference points that align with a global grid system. Mathematical analysis reveals that the Irish monks were working from source materials that positioned their local geography within a comprehensive planetary coordinate system. They knew exactly where Ireland sat in relation to distant continents, ocean systems, and polar regions that official history claims were unknown to medieval European scholars. The pattern repeats across religious institutions throughout Europe and the Middle East. Byzantine manuscripts contain astronomical tables that include geographical coordinates for locations across Africa, Asia, and regions that wouldn't be officially discovered by European explorers for centuries. Islamic texts from Cordoba and Baghdad include mathematical notations that describe global trade routes with precision that suggests systematic surveying of intercontinental commerce networks. The technological implications cascade through every assumption we've made about medieval scientific capabilities. To embed such precise geographical data within religious manuscripts, monastic scribes would have needed access to surveying information that required advanced mathematical knowledge, sophisticated instrumentation, and coordinated observation efforts spanning multiple continents. Yet these same monasteries are supposed to have been isolated religious communities, focused primarily on copying sacred texts and maintaining basic agricultural operations. The suppression of this evidence has reached levels of systematic falsification that reveal coordination between religious institutions, academic organizations, and governmental agencies. Monastery archives that once contained extensive geographical collections have been mysteriously reduced to fragmentary holdings. Vatican secret archives have reclassified medieval manuscripts containing geographical data, moving them to restricted access levels that prevent independent scholarly examination. Eastern Orthodox monasteries report visits from academic delegations who remove controversial manuscripts for preservation and study at institutions where they promptly disappear from catalogue systems. The pattern extends to systematic alteration of historical records that document the existence of these geographical collections. Medieval library inventories that originally listed extensive cartographic holdings have been revised to remove references to maps and geographical treatises. Monastery chronicles that describe the arrival of ancient geographical manuscripts have been edited to eliminate passages discussing pre-medieval source materials. The revision is so systematic that it suggests coordinated effort to erase historical evidence of advanced ancient geographical knowledge. Yet despite this institutional suppression, the mathematical evidence continues to surface through digital analysis techniques that can penetrate layers of historical revision. High-resolution scanning of palimpsests reveals hidden texts beneath later writings. Geographical treatises that were deliberately obscured by scribes who understood they were preserving dangerous knowledge. Spectroscopic analysis of medieval inks reveals multiple layers of text, with earlier geographical notations covered by later religious commentary, designed to hide the original mathematical content. The geographical precision hidden within these religious manuscripts extends to understanding of geological processes that conventional history claims weren't developed until modern scientific methods. Medieval Islamic texts contain descriptions of mountain formation, river system development, and coastal erosion patterns that match modern geological surveys with startling accuracy. These aren't primitive observations or speculative philosophy. They're systematic scientific descriptions that demonstrate understanding of geological processes through direct observation and mathematical analysis. Consider the implications of finding precise geological surveys embedded within 9th century Cordoba manuscripts that describe the formation of the Strait of Gibraltar, including mathematical calculations of water flow rates, tidal dynamics, and erosion patterns that match modern hydrological studies. The precision extends to descriptions of underwater topography, seafloor geology, and current patterns that would have required systematic observation using instruments and techniques that official history insists didn't exist until the development of modern oceanography. The evidence becomes even more disturbing when we examine religious manuscripts that contain astronomical data correlated with geographical coordinates in ways that demonstrate understanding of the Earth's position within larger cosmic systems. Byzantine texts include star charts that show celestial positions calculated from multiple global observation points, suggesting coordinated astronomical research conducted simultaneously from different continents. The mathematical precision of these astronomical calculations requires understanding of spherical trigonometry, celestial mechanics, and global positioning techniques that conventional history claims weren't developed until the Renaissance. But perhaps the most explosive evidence lies in manuscripts that describe technological infrastructure and engineering projects that supposedly didn't exist during medieval periods. Monastery records contain detailed descriptions of canal systems, artificial harbours, and hydraulic engineering projects that match underwater archaeological discoveries made only in recent decades. The precision of these engineering descriptions suggests direct observation of construction projects that utilized advanced technology and sophisticated understanding of hydraulic principles. The mathematical sophistication extends to understanding of metallurgical processes, construction techniques, and manufacturing methods that demonstrate technological capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to medieval civilizations. Islamic manuscripts from Baghdad contain detailed descriptions of steel production methods, precision toolmaking techniques, and manufacturing processes that wouldn't be officially developed until the Industrial Revolution. The precision of these technical descriptions suggests not theoretical knowledge, but practical experience with advanced manufacturing technology. The institutional resistance to acknowledging this evidence has escalated to levels of active falsification that suggest something far more significant than academic conservatism. Research proposals investigating the technological knowledge embedded in medieval manuscripts are systematically rejected by funding agencies. Universities that attempt to organize symposiums on advanced medieval technology face sudden budget cuts and administrative obstacles that force cancellation of their conferences. Academic journals refuse to publish papers analyzing the mathematical precision of geographical and technological knowledge found in religious manuscripts. The suppression extends to digital archives and manuscript databases that have quietly altered catalogue descriptions to downplay the significance of technological and geographical content. Online collections have removed high-resolution images of manuscript pages containing controversial mathematical notations. Academic databases have restricted access to research papers analysing advanced knowledge in medieval texts, preventing independent scholars from accessing evidence that challenges conventional historical timelines. Yet the mathematical evidence remains embedded within these manuscripts, immune to institutional attempts at suppression or revisionist interpretation. Computer analysis reveals technological descriptions that demonstrate understanding of engineering principles, manufacturing techniques, and scientific methods that conventional history claims weren't developed until much later periods. Statistical analysis confirms precision levels in geographical and astronomical data that are mathematically impossible to achieve through primitive observation methods. The evidence points to a conclusion that threatens the foundations of accepted medieval history. These manuscripts contain fragments of technological and scientific knowledge that originated from sources far more ancient and advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. Religious scribes weren't just copying sacred texts. They were preserving fragments of a comprehensive scientific and technological archive that survived from a prehistoric civilization with capabilities that rival modern achievements. The pattern suggests that medieval monasteries and Islamic scholarly institutions served as repositories for ancient knowledge, preserving fragments of scientific and technological information through coordinated efforts that spanned centuries and crossed religious boundaries. The precision of the geographical, astronomical, and technological data embedded within these manuscripts demonstrates systematic preservation of knowledge that originated from a global civilization with advanced scientific understanding and technological infrastructure. The implications extend far beyond simple historical revision to suggest that our understanding of technological development and scientific progress may be fundamentally flawed. These manuscripts represent evidence that advanced scientific knowledge and sophisticated technology existed thousands of years before conventional timelines acknowledged such capabilities. The systematic suppression of this evidence suggests coordinated effort to maintain historical narratives that may be deliberately false. The mathematical precision embedded within these religious manuscripts isn't accidental or coincidental. It's systematic and sophisticated, demonstrating preservation of knowledge from a civilization with technological achievements that have been deliberately hidden from public awareness. Each manuscript represents a fragment of evidence pointing to a lost world whose scientific and technological capabilities challenge every assumption we've been taught about human development and the timeline of civilization itself. The truth lies scattered across monastery archives and Islamic scholarly collections, encoded in mathematical relationships and technological descriptions that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. The evidence reveals that medieval religious institutions weren't just centers of spiritual learning. They were repositories for ancient scientific knowledge that survived from a prehistoric global civilization whose achievements were so advanced that acknowledging their existence would require complete revision of human history. The mathematical evidence is undeniable, the technological descriptions are precise, and the implications are revolutionary. These manuscripts represent testimony to a forgotten civilization that possessed scientific knowledge and technological capabilities far beyond what conventional history acknowledges, preserving their achievements through religious institutions that understood they were safeguarding knowledge more precious than gold. But the most disturbing aspect of this evidence isn't just what these manuscripts reveal about ancient technological capabilities. It's what they suggest about the systematic suppression of this knowledge by modern institutions that seem determined to maintain conventional historical narratives regardless of mathematical and technological evidence to the contrary. The pattern of suppression, the coordinated resistance to investigation, and the deliberate falsification of historical records suggests something far more significant than academic oversight. These manuscripts aren't just evidence of preserved ancient knowledge. They're proof that advanced scientific and technological understanding existed thousands of years before conventional timelines acknowledge such capabilities. The systematic suppression of this evidence reveals coordinated effort to maintain historical narratives that may be fundamentally false, hiding achievements of a prehistoric civilization whose technological capabilities challenge everything we've been taught about human development and scientific progress. The truth embedded within these ancient texts represents a challenge to the very foundations of accepted history, revealing knowledge and capabilities that suggest human civilization is far older and more advanced than we've been allowed to believe. The mathematical precision, the technological sophistication, and the systematic preservation of this knowledge through religious institutions points to a conspiracy of silence that has hidden the achievements of our ancestors for centuries, maintaining false narratives about human development while the evidence of our true heritage lies scattered across archives and collections, waiting for those brave enough to connect the mathematical dots and challenge the institutional resistance to acknowledging these inconvenient truths. The mathematical patterns hidden within these religious manuscripts become even more extraordinary when we examine the astronomical calculations that demonstrate knowledge of celestial mechanics spanning thousands of years of observation. Medieval Islamic texts from the House of Wisdom in Baghdad contain lunar cycle predictions that extend forward and backward through time with precision that wouldn't be matched until the development of modern computer modeling. These aren't simple calendar calculations or basic astronomical observations. They're sophisticated mathematical projections that account for complex orbital variations, gravitational influences, and celestial perturbations that require understanding of advanced astronomical principles. Hidden within the margins of these texts are numerical sequences that, when decoded through computer analysis, reveal eclipse prediction tables accurate to within minutes across centuries of time. The mathematical sophistication required for such calculations demands understanding of orbital mechanics, gravitational theory, and celestial dynamics that conventional history claims weren't developed until the scientific revolution. Yet here we find medieval Islamic scholars working with astronomical data that demonstrates knowledge rivaling modern astrophysical calculations. But the evidence becomes truly mind-bending when we discover that these astronomical calculations are correlated with geographical coordinates that span the entire globe. The scholars of Baghdad weren't just predicting eclipses for their local region. They were calculating celestial events visible from locations across Africa, Asia, Europe, and regions that official history claims were unknown to medieval Islamic civilization. The precision extends to understanding of how celestial phenomena appear differently from various global positions, knowledge that requires systematic observation from multiple continents, coordinated through sophisticated communication networks. The technological implications shatter every assumption about medieval scientific capabilities. To achieve such astronomical precision, Islamic scholars would have needed access to observational data collected from locations across the known and unknown world. They would have required mathematical techniques for correlating observations from different geographical positions, understanding of how the Earth's curvature affects celestial observations, and computational methods for processing vast amounts of astronomical data into accurate predictive models. Consider the mathematical impossibility of developing such sophisticated astronomical calculations through isolated observation from a single location. The precision of eclipse predictions found in these manuscripts requires understanding of how celestial events appear from multiple global positions, knowledge of orbital variations that can only be detected through centuries of coordinated observation, and mathematical techniques for processing astronomical data that wouldn't be officially developed until the invention of modern computational methods. The pattern of suppression surrounding this evidence has reached levels of systematic falsification that suggest coordination between academic institutions, religious organizations, and governmental agencies across multiple countries. Medieval Islamic manuscripts containing advanced astronomical calculations have been quietly reclassified by museums and libraries, moved from public access to restricted research facilities where independent verification becomes impossible. University departments that attempt to organize research projects analyzing the mathematical sophistication of medieval Islamic astronomy face sudden funding cuts and administrative obstacles. The suppression extends to translation projects that might reveal the full extent of astronomical knowledge preserved in Arabic texts. Funding for translating medieval Islamic scientific manuscripts has been systematically reduced, leaving thousands of documents unexamined in archives across the Middle East and Europe. Academic institutions that possess extensive collections of Islamic astronomical texts report pressure from administrative authorities to limit access to these materials, restricting research that might reveal knowledge challenging conventional historical timelines. Yet despite this institutional resistance, digital analysis continues to uncover astronomical calculations that demonstrate mathematical sophistication far beyond accepted medieval capabilities. High-resolution scanning of manuscript pages reveals hidden numerical tables, astronomical charts, and mathematical notations that were deliberately obscured by later scribes who understood they were preserving dangerous knowledge. Computer enhancement of faded Arabic texts reveals astronomical data that includes planetary orbital calculations, stellar position measurements, and celestial mechanics formulas that match modern astrophysical constants with startling precision. The evidence extends beyond simple astronomical observation to include understanding of cosmic phenomena that wouldn't be officially discovered until the development of modern telescopic astronomy. Medieval Islamic texts contain descriptions of stellar formations, galactic structures, and cosmic relationships that match discoveries made only through advanced telescopic observation and space-based astronomy. The precision of these cosmic descriptions suggests access to observational data that required technological capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to medieval Islamic civilization. But perhaps the most explosive astronomical evidence lies in manuscripts that describe celestial events and cosmic phenomena that correlate with geological processes on Earth. Islamic texts from Cordoba contain mathematical calculations that link astronomical cycles with geological changes, climate variations, and geographical transformations that demonstrate understanding of complex relationships between celestial mechanics and terrestrial processes. The sophistication of these calculations suggests knowledge of how cosmic forces influence planetary geology, climate systems, and geographical development. The mathematical precision becomes even more staggering when we examine astronomical calculations that account for precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that shifts stellar positions over thousands of years. Medieval Islamic manuscripts contain star charts that show stellar positions, corrected for precession across vast time periods, demonstrating understanding of this subtle astronomical phenomenon that requires centuries of careful observation to detect. The precision of these precession calculations matches modern astronomical measurements with accuracy that defies explanation through primitive observational methods. The implications cascade through every assumption about medieval technological capabilities. To create astronomical calculations that account for precession with such precision, Islamic scholars would have needed access to observational records spanning thousands of years, mathematical techniques for analyzing long-term astronomical trends, and understanding of complex celestial mechanics that conventional history claims wasn't developed until modern scientific methods. Yet the evidence clearly demonstrates that such knowledge existed and was systematically preserved through Islamic scholarly institutions. The technological requirements for achieving such astronomical precision cannot be dismissed or explained away through conventional theories of medieval scientific capabilities. These calculations demonstrate knowledge of celestial mechanics that requires advanced mathematical understanding, sophisticated observational instruments, and computational techniques that wouldn't be officially developed until the scientific revolution. The precision isn't approximate or speculative, it's systematic and mathematically rigorous, suggesting the work of a scientific tradition with technological capabilities that rival modern astronomical institutions. The pattern of evidence points to a disturbing conclusion that threatens the foundations of accepted scientific history. Medieval Islamic scholars weren't developing astronomical knowledge through primitive observation and basic mathematical techniques. They were preserving and utilizing fragments of a comprehensive astronomical science that originated from sources far more ancient and advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. The mathematical sophistication, the global scope of observational data, and the precision of astronomical calculations suggest preservation of knowledge from a prehistoric civilization with scientific capabilities that challenge everything we've been taught about human technological development. The institutional response to this evidence has escalated beyond simple academic skepticism to active suppression that suggests coordinated effort to maintain conventional historical narratives, regardless of mathematical evidence to the contrary. Research proposals investigating the astronomical sophistication of medieval Islamic texts are systematically rejected by funding agencies. Academic conferences that attempt to examine advanced astronomical knowledge in Islamic manuscripts face cancellation due to sudden budget cuts and administrative obstacles. Scholarly journals refuse to publish papers analyzing the mathematical precision of astronomical calculations found in medieval Arabic texts. The suppression extends to digital archives and online databases that have quietly altered catalogue descriptions to downplay the significance of astronomical content in Islamic manuscripts. University libraries have restricted access to medieval Arabic texts containing advanced astronomical calculations, preventing independent researchers from examining evidence that challenges conventional scientific timelines. Museum collections have reclassified Islamic astronomical instruments and manuscripts, moving them from public exhibition to restricted storage facilities where their sophisticated design and mathematical precision cannot be studied or verified. Yet the mathematical evidence remains embedded within these medieval texts, immune to institutional attempts at suppression or revisionist interpretation. Computer analysis reveals astronomical calculations that demonstrate understanding of celestial mechanics, orbital dynamics, and cosmic relationships that conventional history claims weren't developed until modern scientific methods. Statistical analysis confirms precision levels in astronomical predictions that are mathematically impossible to achieve through primitive observation techniques and basic computational methods. The evidence points to a revolutionary conclusion that medieval Islamic civilization preserved fragments of an ancient astronomical science with mathematical sophistication and observational precision that rivaled modern astrophysical research. The systematic suppression of this evidence suggests coordinated effort to maintain scientific historical narratives that may be fundamentally false, hiding achievements of a prehistoric scientific tradition whose capabilities challenge accepted timelines of human technological development. The mathematical precision isn't coincidental or accidental. It's systematic and sophisticated, demonstrating preservation of astronomical knowledge from a civilization with scientific understanding that has been deliberately hidden from public awareness. Each manuscript represents a fragment of evidence pointing to a lost scientific tradition whose astronomical achievements were so advanced that acknowledging their existence would require complete revision of the timeline of human scientific development. The truth lies scattered across Islamic scholarly archives and manuscript collections, encoded in mathematical relationships and astronomical calculations that survive, despite institutional attempts at suppression. The evidence reveals that medieval Islamic institutions weren't just centers of religious learning, they were repositories for ancient scientific knowledge that survived from a prehistoric civilization whose astronomical capabilities were far beyond what conventional history acknowledges. But the most disturbing aspect of this evidence isn't just what these manuscripts reveal about ancient astronomical capabilities. It's what they suggest about the systematic suppression of scientific knowledge by modern institutions that seem determined to maintain conventional historical narratives, regardless of mathematical evidence to the contrary. The pattern of suppression, the coordinated resistance to investigation, and the deliberate obstruction of research suggests something far more significant than academic conservatism. These manuscripts represent proof that advanced astronomical knowledge and sophisticated mathematical understanding existed thousands of years before conventional timelines acknowledge such capabilities. The systematic suppression of this evidence reveals coordinated effort to maintain scientific historical narratives that hide the achievements of our ancestors, preserving false timelines of human development, while the mathematical truth lies embedded in ancient texts, waiting for researchers brave enough to challenge institutional resistance and reveal the astronomical sophistication of prehistoric civilization. The mathematical evidence is undeniable, the astronomical precision is measurable, and the implications are revolutionary. These medieval Islamic manuscripts represent testimony to a forgotten scientific tradition that possessed astronomical knowledge and mathematical capabilities far beyond what conventional history acknowledges, preserving their achievements through scholarly institutions that understood they were safeguarding scientific knowledge more precious than any earthly treasure. The astronomical calculations hidden within these texts aren't just evidence of preserved ancient knowledge. They're fragments of a comprehensive scientific archive that survived from a global civilization whose technological achievements in astronomy, mathematics, and observational science challenge every assumption we've been taught about human scientific development and the timeline of technological progress itself. The mathematical precision embedded within these astronomical calculations becomes even more explosive when we examine the correlation between celestial predictions and terrestrial events that shouldn't have been understood by any medieval civilization. Hidden within 12th century manuscripts from the Library of Córdoba are tables that link specific astronomical alignments with geological phenomena, documenting relationships between planetary positions and seismic activity that wouldn't be officially recognized until modern plate tectonic theory. These aren't mystical astrological correlations, they're systematic scientific observations that demonstrate understanding of how celestial mechanics influence terrestrial geological processes. The precision extends to mathematical models that predict tidal variations based on lunar and solar positions, calculations that account for gravitational effects across multiple celestial bodies with accuracy that matches modern oceanographic data. Medieval Islamic scholars weren't just observing basic tidal patterns, they were calculating complex gravitational interactions that require understanding of inverse square laws, multi-body gravitational systems, and mathematical physics that conventional history claims wasn't developed until Newton's Principia in the 17th century. But here's where the evidence becomes truly terrifying for defenders of conventional chronology. These manuscripts contain nautical tables that correlate astronomical observations with global navigation data, showing precise longitude calculations for locations across Africa, Asia, and regions that official history insists were unknown to medieval Islamic civilization. The mathematical sophistication required for such calculations demands understanding of spherical trigonometry, celestial navigation, and global positioning techniques that wouldn't be officially developed until the age of exploration. The technological implications shatter every assumption about medieval scientific infrastructure. To achieve such precision in astronomical navigation, Islamic scholars would have needed access to accurate timekeeping devices, sophisticated astronomical instruments, and global communication networks capable of coordinating observations across vast distances. Yet these same civilizations are supposed to have been limited to basic mathematical techniques and primitive observational tools. Consider the mathematical impossibility of calculating precise longitude measurements without accurate chronometric devices. The astronomical tables found in these manuscripts demonstrate longitude calculations accurate to within minutes of arc, precision that requires timekeeping accuracy to within seconds across global distances. This level of chronometric precision wouldn't be officially achieved until the invention of the marine chronometer in the 18th century. Yet here we find medieval calculations that demonstrate such technological capability centuries earlier. The pattern of institutional suppression surrounding this evidence has escalated to levels of active falsification that reveal coordination between academic institutions across multiple countries. Research libraries that once catalogued extensive collections of medieval Islamic astronomical texts report mysterious gaps in their holdings, with key manuscripts disappearing during routine archival reorganizations. Universities that attempt to digitize Islamic scientific collections face sudden funding cuts that prevent completion of projects that might reveal the full extent of astronomical knowledge preserved in Arabic texts. The suppression extends to translation projects that have been systematically defunded or redirected away from manuscripts containing advanced astronomical calculations. Academic institutions report pressure from administrative authorities to focus translation efforts on religious and literary texts while avoiding scientific materials that might challenge conventional historical timelines. Scholars who persist in analyzing the mathematical sophistication of medieval Islamic astronomy find their research proposals rejected, their funding applications denied, and their academic careers quietly derailed through institutional obstacles. Yet despite this coordinated resistance, independent researchers using digital analysis techniques continue to uncover astronomical data that demonstrates mathematical sophistication far beyond accepted medieval capabilities. Computer enhancement of manuscript pages reveals hidden astronomical charts, mathematical tables, and calculation methods that were deliberately obscured by later scribes who understood they were preserving dangerous knowledge. Spectroscopic analysis of medieval inks reveals multiple layers of text, with earlier astronomical notations covered by later religious commentary designed to hide the original scientific content. The evidence extends beyond simple astronomical calculation to include understanding of cosmic phenomena that wouldn't be officially discovered until the development of modern space-based observation. Medieval Islamic texts contain descriptions of stellar formations, planetary systems, and cosmic structures that match discoveries made only through advanced telescopic technology and satellite observation. The precision of these cosmic descriptions suggests access to observational data that required technological capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to any medieval civilization. But perhaps the most explosive evidence lies in manuscripts that describe technological devices and instruments that supposedly didn't exist during medieval periods. Detailed technical drawings show astronomical instruments with precision gearing, optical components, and mechanical sophistication that rivals modern scientific equipment. These aren't primitive astrolabes or basic observational tools. They're complex precision instruments that demonstrate understanding of advanced metallurgy, optical science, and mechanical engineering principles. The mathematical sophistication becomes even more staggering when we examine calculations that demonstrate understanding of relativistic effects in astronomical observation. Medieval Islamic texts contain correction factors for observations that account for the effects of Earth's rotation, atmospheric refraction, and temporal variations that require understanding of physics principles that wouldn't be officially developed until Einstein's theories of relativity. The precision of these correction calculations matches modern astrophysical constants with accuracy that defies explanation through primitive observational methods. The implications cascade through every assumption about the development of scientific knowledge and technological capability. These manuscripts demonstrate that medieval Islamic scholars possessed understanding of advanced physics, sophisticated mathematical techniques, and observational precision that challenges the entire timeline of scientific development. The systematic preservation of this knowledge through Islamic institutions suggests a coordinated effort to maintain scientific understanding that originated from sources far more ancient than conventional history acknowledges. The technological requirements for achieving such scientific precision cannot be dismissed through conventional explanations of medieval capabilities. The astronomical calculations demonstrate knowledge that requires advanced mathematical understanding, sophisticated instrumentation, and observational techniques that wouldn't be officially developed until the scientific revolution. The precision isn't approximate or speculative, it's mathematically rigorous and scientifically accurate, suggesting preservation of knowledge from a civilization with technological capabilities that rival modern scientific institutions. The pattern of evidence points to a disturbing conclusion that threatens the foundations of accepted scientific history. Medieval Islamic civilization wasn't developing scientific knowledge through gradual advancement from primitive beginnings. They were preserving and utilizing fragments of a comprehensive scientific tradition that originated from a prehistoric global civilization with technological capabilities that challenge everything we've been taught about human scientific development. The institutional response has escalated beyond academic skepticism to systematic suppression that suggests something far more significant than scholarly conservatism. The coordination between museums, universities, libraries, and governmental agencies in restricting access to these materials reveals a pattern of deliberate obfuscation that serves to maintain conventional historical narratives, regardless of mathematical evidence to the contrary. The mathematical precision embedded within these medieval texts isn't coincidental or accidental. It's systematic and sophisticated, demonstrating preservation of scientific knowledge from a civilization whose achievements have been deliberately hidden from public awareness. Each manuscript represents a fragment of evidence, pointing to a lost scientific tradition whose capabilities were so advanced that acknowledging their existence would require complete revision of the timeline of human technological development. The suppression extends to modern educational systems that systematically exclude this evidence from curricula dealing with the history of science and mathematics. Students graduate with advanced degrees in physics, astronomy, and mathematics without ever hearing about the sophisticated scientific knowledge preserved in medieval Islamic texts. Academic conferences on the history of science avoid sessions that might examine the mathematical precision of pre-modern astronomical calculations. Scholarly journals refuse to publish research that challenges conventional timelines with mathematical evidence from ancient sources. Yet the truth remains embedded in these manuscripts, immune to institutional attempts at suppression or revisionist interpretation. The astronomical calculations are mathematically verifiable, the precision is measurable, and the implications are revolutionary. These texts represent testimony to a forgotten scientific tradition that possessed knowledge and capabilities far beyond what conventional history acknowledges, preserving their achievements through scholarly institutions that understood they were safeguarding scientific wisdom more precious than any material wealth. The evidence reveals that our understanding of scientific progress and technological development may be fundamentally flawed. Instead of gradual advancement from primitive beginnings, the pattern suggests cycles of scientific achievement and loss, with advanced knowledge preserved through institutional networks that maintained fragments of prehistoric scientific understanding across centuries of cultural upheaval and political transformation. The mathematical sophistication found in these medieval texts challenges every assumption about the linear progression of human knowledge. The astronomical precision, the technological understanding, and the scientific methodology demonstrate capabilities that suggest human scientific achievement is far older and more advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. The systematic suppression of this evidence points to a coordinated effort to maintain false narratives about human development while hiding the true extent of our ancestors' scientific accomplishments. As we examine the broader implications of this cartographic and astronomical evidence, the pattern becomes undeniable. These aren't isolated anomalies or fortunate coincidences of primitive observation. They represent fragments of a comprehensive global knowledge system that mapped the entire planet, predicted celestial events with mathematical precision, and understood scientific principles that wouldn't be officially rediscovered for thousands of years. The mathematical precision spans multiple fields of knowledge, from geographical surveying to astronomical calculation, from geological understanding to technological innovation. The consistency of this precision across different cultures, time periods, and geographical regions suggests a common source, a global civilization that possessed scientific knowledge and technological capabilities that challenge every assumption we've been taught about human development. The institutional resistance to acknowledging this evidence has reached levels of systematic falsification that suggests something far more significant than academic conservatism. The coordination between museums, universities, libraries, and governmental agencies in suppressing access to these materials reveals a pattern of deliberate obfuscation that serves to maintain conventional narratives while hiding mathematical proof of advanced ancient capabilities. The implications extend far beyond simple historical revision to challenge the very foundations of how we understand human civilization technological progress, and scientific development. If these ancient maps and astronomical calculations are authentic, if they truly demonstrate the precision they appear to show, then everything we've been taught about the timeline of human achievement is not just wrong, it's deliberately false. The evidence points to a shocking truth that mainstream institutions desperately want to suppress. That thousands of years ago, before the catastrophic events that mythology speaks of across every culture on Earth, there existed a global empire with scientific knowledge and technological capabilities that rivaled our own. A civilization that mapped every corner of our planet with mathematical precision, predicted celestial events with astronomical accuracy, and understood scientific principles that we're only beginning to rediscover. The mathematical proof is embedded in ancient charts and medieval manuscripts, waiting in museum archives and private collections for researchers brave enough to examine the evidence objectively and challenge the institutional resistance that seeks to maintain false historical narratives. Each calculation is verifiable, each coordinate is measurable, and each precision measurement represents testimony to achievements that threaten to rewrite human history. But the most disturbing aspect of this evidence isn't just what these ancient documents reveal about prehistoric capabilities. It's what they suggest about the systematic suppression of this knowledge by modern institutions that seem determined to maintain conventional timelines regardless of mathematical proof to the contrary. The pattern of suppression, the coordinated resistance to investigation, and the deliberate falsification of historical records suggests a conspiracy of silence that has hidden the achievements of our ancestors for centuries. The truth lies scattered across archives and collections worldwide, encoded in mathematical relationships that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. The precision is undeniable, the implications are revolutionary, and the evidence points to a conclusion that challenges everything we think we know about human civilization and our place in history. These ancient maps and astronomical calculations aren't just historical curiosities. They're fragments of proof that human achievement is far older and more sophisticated than we've been allowed to believe. The mathematical evidence reveals that our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities that rival our own, achievements that have been systematically hidden to maintain false narratives about human development and technological progress. The conspiracy of silence extends across centuries, maintained by institutions that benefit from controlling historical narratives and suppressing evidence that might challenge their authority to define human achievement. But the mathematical truth embedded in these ancient documents cannot be suppressed forever, and the precision of their calculations serves as undeniable testimony to capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of human civilization itself. The mathematical evidence becomes even more extraordinary when we examine ancient texts that describe navigation techniques requiring knowledge of the Earth's magnetic field variations across different geographical regions. Hidden within 10th century Viking sagas are detailed descriptions of navigation methods that account for magnetic declination with precision that matches modern magnetic field measurements. These aren't primitive compass readings or basic directional guidance. They're sophisticated magnetic correction calculations that demonstrate understanding of how the Earth's magnetic field varies by location and changes over time. The precision of these magnetic calculations would have required systematic observation from multiple global positions, coordinated data collection across vast oceanic distances, and mathematical techniques for correlating magnetic readings with astronomical observations. Yet conventional history tells us that Viking navigators were working with primitive magnetic compasses and basic dead reckoning methods, tools that could never achieve the precision demonstrated in these ancient navigational texts. But here's where the evidence becomes truly mind-bending for defenders of conventional chronology. These Viking texts contain magnetic declination tables that show variation patterns extending far beyond the North Atlantic regions, where Norse exploration supposedly occurred. The calculations include magnetic field data for locations across the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and Southern Hemisphere regions that official history insists were unknown to medieval European navigators. The technological implications shatter every assumption about Viking navigational capabilities. To create accurate magnetic declination tables covering global oceanic regions, Norse navigators would have needed access to precision magnetic measuring instruments, coordinated expedition networks spanning multiple continents, and mathematical methods for processing magnetic field data that wouldn't be officially developed until modern geomagnetic research. Yet here, we find medieval texts demonstrating such technological sophistication centuries before these capabilities were supposedly possible. The pattern of institutional suppression surrounding this evidence has reached levels of systematic falsification that suggest coordination between academic institutions, museums, and governmental agencies across Scandinavian countries. Research libraries in Iceland, Norway, and Denmark report mysterious alterations to medieval manuscript collections, with key navigational texts either disappearing entirely or being reclassified as restricted materials unavailable for independent scholarly examination. The suppression extends to archaeological expeditions that have discovered Viking artifacts containing sophisticated navigational instruments with precision that defies conventional understanding of medieval technology. Bronze navigation devices with intricate gearing systems, optical components for astronomical observation, and magnetic measurement capabilities that demonstrate understanding of advanced metallurgy and precision engineering principles. These artifacts are quickly removed from excavation sites and classified as matters of national heritage, preventing independent analysis that might reveal their true technological sophistication. Yet despite this coordinated resistance, independent researchers using digital analysis techniques continue to uncover navigational data that demonstrates mathematical precision far beyond accepted medieval capabilities. Computer enhancement of runic inscriptions reveals hidden numerical sequences that, when decoded, show coordinate calculations accurate to within minutes of arc across oceanic distances. Spectroscopic analysis of Viking navigation stones reveals multiple layers of inscribed data, with earlier, precise navigational information covered by later decorative patterns designed to obscure the original mathematical content. The evidence extends beyond simple magnetic navigation to include understanding of ocean current patterns, deep-sea topography, and maritime phenomena that wouldn't be officially documented until modern oceanographic research. Viking texts contain descriptions of underwater mountain ranges, oceanic thermal layers, and current flow patterns that match modern oceanographic surveys with startling accuracy. Knowledge that would have required systematic deep-sea exploration using instruments and techniques that conventional history insists didn't exist until the development of modern marine science. Consider the mathematical impossibility of accurately mapping ocean current patterns without advanced oceanographic instruments. The Viking texts demonstrate understanding of seasonal current variations, temperature gradients at different depths, and complex flow patterns that result from underwater topographical features. This knowledge would have required coordinated observation from multiple oceanic positions, sophisticated instruments for measuring water temperature and current speed, and mathematical techniques for analyzing complex hydrological data. The precision becomes even more staggering when we examine Viking texts that describe ice formation patterns, glacial movement, and polar navigation techniques that demonstrate understanding of Arctic conditions with accuracy that matches modern polar research data. These aren't basic observations of seasonal ice changes. They're sophisticated glaciological descriptions that include mathematical calculations of ice density, thermal expansion effects, and structural load limits that require understanding of advanced physics principles. But perhaps the most explosive evidence lies in Viking texts that describe encounters with land masses and geographical features that correspond to modern discoveries of underwater ruins and submerged archaeological sites. Detailed descriptions of coastal settlements, harbour installations, and architectural structures that match underwater archaeological surveys of sites that have been submerged since the end of the last ice age. Features that would have been above sea level thousands of years before Viking exploration, suggesting that Norse navigators had access to geographical information that originated from much more ancient sources. The The mathematical sophistication extends to understanding of tidal mechanics that account for gravitational effects from multiple celestial bodies with precision that rivals modern astronomical calculations. Viking texts contain tidal prediction tables that show water level variations based on lunar phases, solar positions, and planetary alignments that demonstrate understanding of complex gravitational interactions. The accuracy of these tidal calculations matches modern oceanographic data with precision that defies explanation through primitive observation methods. The technological requirements for achieving such navigational precision cannot be dismissed through conventional explanations of Viking capabilities. The magnetic declination calculations demonstrate knowledge that requires precision instruments. The oceanographic understanding suggests advanced marine exploration technology, and the astronomical correlations indicate sophisticated mathematical techniques that wouldn't be officially developed until modern scientific methods. The pattern of evidence points to a disturbing conclusion that threatens the foundations of accepted medieval history. Viking navigators weren't developing their seafaring knowledge through gradual advancement from primitive beginnings. They were utilizing fragments of a comprehensive navigational science that originated from sources far more ancient and technologically advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. The institutional response has escalated beyond simple academic skepticism to active suppression that reveals coordination between museums, universities, and governmental agencies in multiple countries. Scandinavian institutions report pressure from administrative authorities to limit access to Viking navigational texts, restricting research that might reveal knowledge challenging conventional historical timelines. Archaeological departments face funding cuts when their research focuses too heavily on sophisticated Viking technology that doesn't fit accepted medieval capabilities. The suppression extends to modern educational systems that systematically exclude evidence of advanced Viking navigational knowledge from curricula dealing with medieval history and maritime archaeology. Students graduate with degrees in Scandinavian studies, medieval history, and marine archaeology, without ever hearing about the mathematical precision of Viking navigational techniques or the sophisticated technology demonstrated in their maritime artifacts. Yet the mathematical evidence remains embedded within these ancient texts, immune to institutional attempts at suppression or revisionist interpretation. Computer analysis reveals navigational calculations that demonstrate understanding of advanced physics, sophisticated mathematical techniques, and technological precision that conventional history claims wasn't developed until modern scientific methods. The precision isn't approximate or coincidental. It's systematic and mathematically rigorous, suggesting preservation of knowledge from a civilization with capabilities that rival modern navigational science. The evidence reveals that Viking maritime achievement may represent fragments of a much older and more sophisticated navigational tradition. The mathematical precision of their calculations, the global scope of their geographical knowledge, and the technological sophistication of their instruments suggest preservation of knowledge from a prehistoric maritime civilization with capabilities that challenge everything we've been taught about ancient seafaring. The implications extend far beyond Viking history to suggest that our understanding of medieval maritime technology and navigational science may be fundamentally flawed. Instead of gradual development from primitive boat building and basic navigation, the pattern suggests preservation of advanced maritime knowledge through cultural networks that maintained fragments of prehistoric navigational science across centuries of political upheaval and cultural transformation. The mathematical sophistication found in these Viking texts challenges every assumption about the linear progression of maritime technology. The navigational precision, the oceanographic understanding, and the technological capabilities demonstrate achievements that suggest human maritime science is far older and more advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. The systematic suppression of this evidence points to coordinated effort to maintain false narratives about technological development while hiding the true extent of ancient maritime accomplishments. The truth embedded within these Viking navigational texts represents testimony to capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of medieval maritime achievement and the timeline of navigational science itself. The mathematical precision is verifiable, the technological descriptions are detailed, and the implications challenge fundamental assumptions about human technological development and the capabilities of ancient civilizations. But the most disturbing aspect of this evidence isn't just what these Viking texts reveal about advanced ancient maritime knowledge. It's what they suggest about the systematic suppression of this evidence by modern institutions that seem determined to maintain conventional historical narratives, regardless of mathematical proof to the contrary. The pattern of suppression, the coordinated resistance to investigation, and the deliberate obstruction of research reveals something far more significant than academic conservatism. The evidence points to a conclusion that mainstream maritime historians desperately want to avoid. That medieval Viking navigators possessed mathematical knowledge and technological capabilities that originated from a much older maritime tradition, fragments of a global seafaring civilization that mapped the world's oceans with precision that wouldn't be matched again for centuries. A maritime empire that understood ocean currents, magnetic fields, and navigational science with sophistication that rivals modern oceanographic research. The mathematical proof lies scattered across Scandinavian archives and archaeological collections, encoded in runic inscriptions and navigational artifacts that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. Each calculation is verifiable. Each coordinate measurement represents testimony to achievements that challenge accepted timelines of maritime technological development. These Viking navigational texts aren't just historical documents. They're fragments of evidence pointing to a lost maritime civilization whose achievements have been systematically hidden to maintain false narratives about the development of seafaring technology and navigational science. The mathematical precision embedded within these ancient texts serves as undeniable proof that our ancestors possessed maritime capabilities far beyond what conventional history acknowledges. The conspiracy of silence extends across centuries of maritime historical scholarship, maintained by institutions that benefit from controlling narratives about technological development and suppressing evidence that might challenge their authority to define human maritime achievement. But the mathematical truth embedded in these Viking documents cannot be suppressed forever, and the precision of their navigational calculations serves as testimony to capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of ancient maritime civilization. The pattern becomes even more undeniable when we examine similar evidence from other maritime cultures that demonstrates the same impossible precision in navigational knowledge. Polynesian navigation techniques that account for ocean swell patterns, stellar positions, and wind variations with mathematical accuracy that defies explanation through conventional theories of primitive seafaring. Aboriginal Australian songlines that encode geographical coordinates and navigational data spanning continental distances with precision that matches modern satellite mapping. The consistency of this advanced maritime knowledge across different cultures, time periods, and geographical regions suggests a common source, a global maritime civilization that possessed navigational science and oceanic understanding that challenge every assumption we've been taught about ancient seafaring capabilities. The mathematical precision spans multiple aspects of maritime knowledge, from magnetic navigation to tidal prediction, from oceanographic understanding to astronomical correlation. The institutional resistance to acknowledging this evidence has reached levels of systematic falsification that suggests something far more significant than scholarly conservatism. The coordination between maritime museums, archaeological institutions, and governmental agencies in suppressing access to these materials reveals a pattern of deliberate obfuscation that serves to maintain conventional narratives while hiding mathematical proof of advanced ancient maritime capabilities. The implications extend far beyond simple historical revision to challenge the very foundations of how we understand human maritime development, navigational technology, and oceanic exploration. If these ancient navigational texts are authentic, if they truly demonstrate the precision they appear to show, then everything we've been taught about the timeline of maritime achievement is not just wrong, it's deliberately false. The evidence points to a shocking truth that maritime institutions desperately want to suppress. That thousands of years ago, there existed a global maritime empire with navigational knowledge and oceanic understanding that rivaled our own. A civilization that mapped every ocean current, understood magnetic field variations across the globe, and developed navigational techniques that enabled precision seafaring across vast oceanic distances. The mathematical proof is embedded in ancient texts and navigational artifacts, waiting in archives and collections for researchers brave enough to examine the evidence objectively and challenge the institutional resistance that seeks to maintain false maritime historical narratives. Each navigational calculation is verifiable, each coordinate measurement is precise, and each technological description represents testimony to achievements that threaten to rewrite maritime history. But perhaps the most explosive aspect of this maritime evidence lies in what it reveals about the catastrophic events that destroyed this global oceanic civilization and scattered its knowledge across surviving cultures. Navigational texts that describe sea level changes, coastal transformations, and oceanic upheavals that match geological evidence of catastrophic events that reshaped the world's maritime geography. Evidence that suggests the great floods remembered in mythology weren't gradual climate changes, but sudden oceanic catastrophes that destroyed a maritime empire and forced survivors to preserve fragments of their navigational knowledge however they could. The mathematical precision embedded within these ancient maritime texts isn't just evidence of advanced navigational knowledge, it's testimony to a lost oceanic civilization whose technological achievements were buried beneath rising seas and cultural upheaval that reset human maritime development and forced the preservation of advanced knowledge through cultural traditions that maintained fragments of prehistoric navigational science. The truth lies scattered across maritime archives and navigational collections worldwide, encoded in mathematical relationships that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. The precision is undeniable, the implications are revolutionary, and the evidence points to a conclusion that challenges everything we think we know about human maritime civilization and our oceanic heritage. These ancient navigational texts aren't just maritime curiosities. They're fragments of proof that human oceanic achievement is far older and more sophisticated than we've been allowed to believe. The mathematical evidence reveals that our maritime ancestors possessed navigational knowledge and technological capabilities that rival our own, achievements that have been systematically hidden to maintain false narratives about maritime development and oceanic exploration. The conspiracy of silence extends across centuries of maritime scholarship, maintained by institutions that control historical narratives and suppress evidence that might challenge their authority to define human oceanic achievement. But the mathematical truth embedded in these ancient navigational documents cannot be suppressed forever, and the precision of their calculations serves as undeniable testimony to maritime capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of human oceanic civilization itself. The mathematical evidence becomes even more disturbing when we examine ancient Chinese texts that describe hydraulic engineering projects with precision that shouldn't exist in any pre-modern civilization. Hidden within the archives of the Forbidden City are technical manuals from the Han Dynasty that detail canal construction, water management systems, and hydraulic calculations that demonstrate understanding of fluid dynamics centuries before these principles were supposedly developed by European engineers. These aren't crude irrigation ditches or basic water channels, they're sophisticated hydraulic networks that required advanced mathematical modeling and engineering precision. The technical specifications found in these manuscripts include pressure calculations, flow rate measurements, and structural load analyses that match modern hydraulic engineering standards with startling accuracy. Ancient Chinese engineers weren't just moving water from one location to another. They were designing complex hydraulic systems that accounted for seasonal variations, geological stability, and mathematical relationships governing fluid mechanics that wouldn't be officially formulated until the scientific revolution. But here's where the evidence becomes truly explosive for defenders of conventional engineering history. These Chinese texts contain hydraulic calculations that demonstrate understanding of regions far beyond the boundaries of ancient China. Technical manuals describe water management projects across Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and even references to hydraulic systems in regions that correspond to modern-day Africa and South America. The precision of these engineering descriptions suggests systematic hydraulic knowledge spanning multiple continents. The technological implications shatter every assumption about ancient Chinese engineering capabilities. To achieve such hydraulic precision across vast geographical regions, Chinese engineers would have needed access to advanced surveying equipment, coordinated engineering teams spanning continents, and mathematical techniques for calculating complex fluid dynamics that require understanding of advanced physics principles. Yet these same civilizations are supposed to have been limited to basic construction methods and primitive engineering tools. Consider the mathematical impossibility of designing continent-spanning hydraulic networks without modern engineering technology. The Chinese texts demonstrate understanding of water pressure variations across different elevations, seasonal flow patterns that account for climatic changes across vast distances, and structural engineering calculations that consider geological stability factors across diverse terrain types. This level of hydraulic sophistication would have required engineering capabilities that rival modern civil engineering projects. The pattern of institutional suppression surrounding this evidence has escalated to levels of systematic falsification that reveal coordination between Chinese cultural institutions, international museums, and academic organizations across multiple countries. Research libraries in Beijing, Shanghai, and Xi'an report mysterious reorganizations of ancient engineering collections, with key technical manuscripts either disappearing entirely or being reclassified as culturally sensitive materials unavailable for independent scholarly examination. The suppression extends to archaeological expeditions that have discovered ancient Chinese engineering artifacts, demonstrating technological sophistication that defies conventional understanding of historical capabilities. Precision-machined bronze components with tolerances that require advanced metallurgy, hydraulic control devices with intricate mechanical systems, and measuring instruments with accuracy that demonstrates understanding of advanced engineering principles. These artifacts are quickly removed from excavation sites and classified as matters of national heritage, preventing independent analysis that might reveal their true technological sophistication. Yet despite this coordinated resistance, independent researchers using advanced analytical techniques continue to uncover engineering data that demonstrates mathematical precision far beyond accepted ancient capabilities. Computer modeling of ancient Chinese hydraulic systems reveals engineering calculations that account for complex variables, including soil composition, seasonal weather patterns, and long-term geological stability factors. The precision of these calculations matches modern civil engineering standards with accuracy that defies explanation through primitive construction methods. The evidence extends beyond simple hydraulic engineering to include understanding of materials science, structural mechanics, and construction techniques that wouldn't be officially developed until modern industrial methods. Chinese texts contain detailed descriptions of concrete formulations, steel production techniques, and precision manufacturing processes that demonstrate technological capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient civilizations. But perhaps the most explosive evidence lies in Chinese texts that describe engineering projects correlating with underwater archaeological discoveries made only in recent decades. Technical manuals that detail harbor construction, underwater foundations, and marine engineering projects that match submerged ruins discovered through modern underwater archaeology. structures that would have been built when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than today, suggesting that Chinese engineers had access to construction sites that have been underwater for thousands of years. The mathematical sophistication extends to understanding of seismic engineering, earthquake-resistant construction techniques, and geological stability calculations that demonstrate knowledge of advanced structural engineering principles. Ancient Chinese texts contain building specifications that account for seismic forces, soil liquefaction effects, and structural resonance patterns that require understanding of advanced physics and engineering mechanics that wouldn't be officially developed until modern earthquake engineering research. The technological requirements for achieving such engineering precision cannot be dismissed through conventional explanations of ancient Chinese capabilities. The hydraulic calculations demonstrate knowledge that requires advanced mathematical understanding. The materials science suggests sophisticated metallurgy and chemistry knowledge. And the structural engineering indicates technological capabilities that wouldn't be officially developed until modern industrial methods. The pattern of evidence points to a disturbing conclusion that threatens the foundations of accepted engineering history. Ancient Chinese civilization wasn't developing engineering knowledge through gradual advancement from primitive construction methods. They were preserving and utilizing fragments of a comprehensive engineering science that originated from sources far more ancient and technologically advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. The institutional response has escalated beyond simple academic skepticism to active suppression that reveals coordination between cultural institutions, universities, and governmental agencies across multiple countries. Chinese academic institutions report pressure from administrative authorities to limit access to ancient engineering texts, restricting research that might reveal technological knowledge challenging conventional historical timelines. Engineering departments face funding cuts when their research focuses too heavily on sophisticated ancient technology that doesn't fit accepted historical capabilities. The suppression extends to modern educational systems that systematically exclude evidence of advanced ancient Chinese engineering from curricula dealing with the history of technology and civil engineering. Students graduate with degrees in engineering, Chinese studies, and technological history without ever hearing about the mathematical precision of ancient hydraulic systems or the sophisticated technology demonstrated in archaeological artifacts. Yet the mathematical evidence remains embedded within these ancient texts, immune to institutional attempts at suppression or revisionist interpretation. Computer analysis reveals engineering calculations that demonstrate understanding of advanced physics, sophisticated mathematical techniques, and technological precision that conventional history claims wasn't developed until modern industrial methods. The precision isn't approximate or coincidental, it's systematic and mathematically rigorous, suggesting preservation of knowledge from a civilization with engineering capabilities that rival modern technological institutions. The evidence reveals that ancient Chinese engineering achievement may represent fragments of a much older and more sophisticated technological tradition. The mathematical precision of their calculations, the global scope of their engineering knowledge, and the technological sophistication of their construction methods suggest preservation of knowledge from a prehistoric technological civilization with capabilities that challenge everything we've been taught about ancient engineering. The implications cascade through every assumption about technological development and engineering progress. These manuscripts demonstrate that ancient engineers possessed understanding of advanced physics, sophisticated mathematical techniques, and construction precision that challenges the entire timeline of technological development. The systematic preservation of this knowledge through Chinese institutions suggests a coordinated effort to maintain engineering understanding that originated from sources far more ancient than conventional history acknowledges. The mathematical sophistication found in these Chinese texts challenges every assumption about the linear progression of engineering knowledge. The hydraulic precision, the material science understanding, and the structural engineering capabilities demonstrate achievements that suggest human technological development is far older and more advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. The systematic suppression of this evidence points to coordinated effort to maintain false narratives about technological progress while hiding the true extent of ancient engineering accomplishments. The truth embedded within these Chinese engineering texts represents testimony to capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of ancient technological achievement and the timeline of engineering science itself. The mathematical precision is verifiable, the technological descriptions are detailed, and the implications challenge fundamental assumptions about human technological development and the capabilities of ancient civilizations. But the most disturbing aspect of this evidence isn't just what these Chinese texts reveal about advanced ancient engineering knowledge, it's what they suggest about the systematic suppression of this evidence by modern institutions that seem determined to maintain conventional technological narratives regardless of mathematical proof to the contrary. The pattern of suppression, the coordinated resistance to investigation, and the deliberate obstruction of research reveals something far more significant than academic conservatism. The evidence points to a conclusion that mainstream engineering historians desperately want to avoid: that ancient Chinese engineers possessed mathematical knowledge and technological capabilities that originated from a much older engineering tradition. Fragments of a global technological civilization that understood hydraulic systems, materials science, and construction techniques with sophistication that rivals modern engineering research. The mathematical proof lies scattered across Chinese archives and engineering collections, encoded in technical specifications and construction manuals that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. Each calculation is verifiable. Each engineering measurement represents testimony to achievements that challenge accepted timelines of technological development. These Chinese engineering texts aren't just historical documents, they're fragments of evidence pointing to a lost technological civilization whose achievements have been systematically hidden to maintain false narratives about the development of engineering science and construction technology. The mathematical precision embedded within these ancient texts serves as undeniable proof that our ancestors possessed engineering capabilities far beyond what conventional history acknowledges. The conspiracy of silence extends across centuries of technological historical scholarship, maintained by institutions that benefit from controlling narratives about engineering development and suppressing evidence that might challenge their authority to define human technological achievement. But the mathematical truth embedded in these Chinese documents cannot be suppressed forever, and the precision of their engineering calculations serves as testimony to capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of ancient technological civilization. The pattern becomes even more undeniable when we examine the global distribution of similar engineering evidence that demonstrates the same impossible precision across different cultures and geographical regions. Inca construction techniques that achieve tolerances requiring precision machinery, Roman concrete formulations that demonstrate advanced chemistry knowledge, and Islamic architectural calculations that account for complex structural forces with mathematical accuracy that defies conventional understanding of medieval engineering capabilities. The consistency of this advanced engineering knowledge across different civilizations, time periods, and construction projects suggests a common source, a global technological empire that possessed engineering science and construction understanding that challenge every assumption we've been taught about ancient technological capabilities. The mathematical precision spans multiple aspects of engineering knowledge, from hydraulic systems to structural mechanics, from materials science to precision manufacturing. The institutional resistance to acknowledging this evidence has reached levels of systematic falsification that suggest something far more significant than scholarly conservatism. The coordination between engineering institutions, museums, and governmental agencies in suppressing access to these materials reveals a pattern of deliberate obfuscation that serves to maintain conventional narratives while hiding mathematical proof of advanced ancient technological capabilities. The implications extend far beyond simple historical revision to challenge the very foundations of how we understand human technological development, engineering progress, and construction science. If these ancient engineering texts are authentic, if they truly demonstrate the precision they appear to show, then everything we've been taught about the timeline of technological achievement is not just wrong, it's deliberately false. The evidence points to a shocking truth that engineering institutions desperately want to suppress. That thousands of years ago, there existed a global technological empire with engineering knowledge and construction understanding that rivaled our own. A civilization that designed hydraulic networks spanning continents, understood materials science with chemical precision, and developed construction techniques that enabled engineering projects of unprecedented scale and sophistication. The mathematical proof is embedded in ancient texts and engineering artifacts, waiting in archives and collections for researchers brave enough to examine the evidence objectively and challenge the institutional resistance that seeks to maintain false technological historical narratives. Each engineering calculation is verifiable, each construction specification is precise, and each technological description represents testimony to achievements that threaten to rewrite the history of human engineering. But perhaps the most explosive aspect of this engineering evidence lies in what it reveals about the catastrophic events that destroyed this global technological civilization and scattered its knowledge across surviving cultures. Engineering texts that describe infrastructure failures, construction collapses, and technological breakdowns that match geological evidence of catastrophic events that reshaped the world's technological landscape. Evidence that suggests the great disasters remembered in mythology weren't gradual technological decline, but sudden catastrophes that destroyed a technological empire and forced survivors to preserve fragments of their engineering knowledge, however they could. The mathematical precision embedded within these ancient engineering texts isn't just evidence of advanced technological knowledge. It's testimony to a lost technological civilization whose engineering achievements were buried beneath catastrophic upheaval that reset human technological development and forced the preservation of advanced knowledge through cultural traditions that maintained fragments of prehistoric engineering science. The truth lies scattered across engineering archives and technological collections worldwide, encoded in mathematical relationships that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. The precision is undeniable, the implications are revolutionary, and the evidence points to a conclusion that challenges everything we think we know about human technological civilization and our engineering heritage. These ancient engineering texts aren't just technological curiosities, they're fragments of proof that human engineering achievement is far older and more sophisticated than we've been allowed to believe. The mathematical evidence reveals that our technological ancestors possessed engineering knowledge and construction capabilities that rival our own, achievements that have been systematically hidden to maintain false narratives about technological development and engineering progress. The conspiracy of silence extends across centuries of engineering scholarship, maintained by institutions that control technological narratives and suppress evidence that might challenge their authority to define human engineering achievement. But the mathematical truth embedded in these ancient engineering documents cannot be suppressed forever, and the precision of their calculations serves as undeniable testimony to technological capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of human engineering civilization itself. The pattern of suppression becomes even more sinister when we examine how modern institutions handle requests to study these engineering artifacts using advanced analytical techniques. Research proposals investigating the technological sophistication of ancient construction methods are systematically rejected by funding agencies. Universities that attempt to organize symposiums on prehistoric engineering achievements face sudden budget cuts that force cancellation of their conferences. Academic journals refuse to publish papers analyzing the mathematical precision of ancient engineering calculations that challenge conventional technological timelines. The cover-up extends to archaeological expeditions that discover ancient engineering sites with construction techniques that shouldn't exist according to accepted historical capabilities. Excavation permits are mysteriously revoked when discoveries threaten to reveal technological sophistication that challenges conventional narratives. Archaeological findings are confiscated by governmental authorities and classified as matters of national security, preventing independent analysis that might confirm the advanced nature of ancient engineering achievements. Yet despite this coordinated suppression, the mathematical evidence continues to surface through independent research and digital analysis. Advanced scanning techniques reveal hidden engineering specifications embedded within ancient structures, construction details that demonstrate understanding of advanced physics and materials science. Computer modeling of ancient construction projects reveals engineering calculations that account for complex variables, including seismic forces, thermal expansion, and long-term structural stability factors that require technological knowledge far beyond accepted ancient capabilities. The evidence extends to understanding of precision manufacturing techniques that wouldn't be officially developed until the Industrial Revolution. Ancient texts describe toolmaking methods, quality control procedures, and manufacturing processes that demonstrate technological capabilities rivaling modern industrial production. The precision of these manufacturing descriptions suggests not theoretical knowledge, but practical experience with advanced production technology and systematic quality control methods. The global scope of this engineering evidence becomes even more staggering when we examine construction projects that span multiple continents with coordinated design specifications and standardized construction techniques. Ancient engineering projects that demonstrate unified planning across vast geographical distances, suggesting communication networks and organizational structures capable of coordinating massive construction efforts involving multiple civilizations and diverse geographical regions. The mathematical analysis reveals construction tolerances that require precision manufacturing tools, surveying techniques that demand advanced mathematical understanding, and structural calculations that account for complex engineering variables spanning multiple scientific disciplines. The consistency of these precision standards across different construction projects and geographical regions suggests a unified technological tradition with standardized engineering practices and coordinated construction methodologies. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this evidence lies in engineering texts that describe technological infrastructure that correlates with modern discoveries of advanced ancient sites buried beneath layers of geological sediment. Construction manuals that detail engineering projects matching archaeological discoveries of sophisticated urban planning, advanced water management systems, and precision construction techniques found at sites that have been buried for thousands of years beneath natural disasters and geological upheaval. The implications challenge every assumption about technological progress and the linear development of engineering knowledge. Instead of gradual advancement from primitive construction methods, the evidence suggests that advanced engineering capabilities existed thousands of years ago, with technological knowledge preserved through cultural networks that maintained fragments of prehistoric engineering science across centuries of civilizational collapse and reconstruction. The mathematical sophistication embedded within these ancient engineering texts represents testimony to a global technological civilization whose achievements rival modern engineering capabilities. The precision of their calculations, the sophistication of their construction methods, and the global scope of their engineering projects suggest technological infrastructure and organizational capabilities that challenge fundamental assumptions about ancient civilizational development. The systematic suppression of this evidence reveals coordinated effort by modern institutions to maintain false narratives about technological progress while hiding mathematical proof of advanced ancient engineering capabilities. The pattern of suppression extends across academic institutions, governmental agencies, and international organizations that seem determined to prevent public awareness of evidence that might challenge conventional technological timelines. The truth embedded within these ancient engineering documents cannot be suppressed forever. The mathematical precision is verifiable, the technological descriptions are detailed, and the implications are revolutionary. These texts represent fragments of proof that human engineering achievement is far older and more sophisticated than conventional history acknowledges. Evidence that threatens to revolutionize our understanding of technological development and the capabilities of ancient civilizations. The conspiracy of silence that surrounds this evidence suggests something far more significant than academic conservatism or institutional inertia. The coordinated nature of the suppression, the systematic obstruction of research, and the deliberate falsification of historical records points to a deliberate campaign to maintain false narratives about human technological development, while hiding evidence that might reveal the true extent of our ancestors' engineering achievements. But the mathematical truth remains embedded in these ancient texts, immune to institutional attempts at suppression or revisionist interpretation. Each engineering calculation serves as testimony to capabilities that challenge everything we've been taught about the timeline of technological progress and the development of human engineering knowledge. The precision is undeniable, the implications are staggering, and the evidence points to a conclusion that threatens to rewrite the entire history of human technological achievement. These ancient engineering texts aren't just historical documents. They're fragments of a comprehensive technological archive that survived from a global civilization whose engineering capabilities challenge every assumption we've made about ancient technological development. The mathematical evidence reveals that our understanding of technological progress may be fundamentally flawed, suggesting that advanced engineering knowledge has existed far longer than conventional timelines acknowledge. The implications extend beyond simple historical revision to challenge the very foundations of how we understand human technological development and engineering progress. The evidence suggests that instead of linear advancement from primitive beginnings, technological development may follow cycles of achievement and loss, with advanced knowledge preserved through institutional networks that maintain fragments of prehistoric technological understanding across periods of civilizational upheaval and cultural transformation. The mathematical precision found in these ancient engineering texts challenges every assumption about the gradual progression of technological knowledge. The engineering sophistication, the construction precision, and the technological understanding demonstrate achievements that suggest human engineering capability is far older and more advanced than conventional timelines acknowledge. The systematic suppression of this evidence points to coordinated effort to maintain false narratives about technological development while hiding the true extent of ancient engineering accomplishments. As we examine the broader implications of this suppressed evidence, the pattern becomes undeniable. These ancient maps, astronomical calculations, navigational techniques, and engineering texts aren't isolated anomalies or fortunate coincidences of primitive achievement. They represent fragments of a comprehensive global knowledge system that understood our planet's geography with mathematical precision, predicted celestial events with astronomical accuracy, navigated the world's oceans with technological sophistication, and constructed engineering projects with capabilities that rival modern achievements. The mathematical precision spans multiple fields of knowledge, from geographical surveying to astronomical calculation, from navigational science to engineering technology. The consistency of this precision across different cultures, time periods, and geographical regions suggests a common source, a global civilization that possessed scientific knowledge and technological capabilities that challenge every assumption we've been taught about human development and the timeline of civilizational achievement. The institutional resistance to acknowledging this evidence has reached levels of systematic falsification that suggests something far more significant than academic conservatism. The coordination between museums, universities, libraries, and governmental agencies in suppressing access to these materials reveals a pattern of deliberate obfuscation that serves to maintain conventional narratives, while hiding mathematical proof of advanced ancient capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of human history itself. The evidence becomes even more explosive when we examine how this suppressed knowledge connects to the greatest mystery of all, the systematic erasure of an entire civilization from human memory. Hidden within Vatican archives, locked away in the deepest vaults of the Library of Alexandria's surviving fragments, and scattered across private collections that most people will never see, are documents that don't just show advanced ancient capabilities, They reveal the deliberate destruction of a global empire that once spanned every continent on Earth. These aren't random artifacts or isolated achievements. They're pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, paint a picture so shocking that it threatens to shatter the very foundations of everything we've been taught about human history. A picture of a world where advanced cities dotted every coastline, where communication networks spanned oceans, where technological marvels that we're only now beginning to understand were commonplace thousands of years before the supposed dawn of civilization. But here's what should terrify every guardian of conventional history. The mathematical precision embedded within these ancient documents isn't just evidence of advanced knowledge, it's proof of systematic global coordination. The same mathematical constants, the same surveying techniques, the same astronomical calculations appear in documents from cultures that supposedly never had contact with each other. Celtic stone circles in Ireland using identical geometric ratios to temple complexes in Cambodia. Aboriginal songlines in Australia encoding the same navigational principles found in Polynesian wayfinding traditions. Mayan astronomical calculations matching precision measurements discovered in Tibetan monastery archives. The implications cascade through every assumption we've made about isolated cultural development. This wasn't parallel evolution or coincidental discovery. This was a unified global civilization with standardized knowledge systems, coordinated scientific research, and technological infrastructure that connected every inhabited region of our planet. A civilization so advanced, so comprehensive, that fragments of their achievements survived even the catastrophic events that erased them from historical memory. Consider the mathematical impossibility of achieving such global coordination without advanced communication technology. Ancient documents describe messenger networks that could transmit information across continents within weeks, navigation systems that enabled regular oceanic travel between distant lands, and construction projects that required coordinated effort between engineering teams separated by thousands of miles. The precision of this coordination suggests technological capabilities that rival modern global communication systems. The pattern of suppression surrounding this evidence has escalated beyond academic resistance to systematic destruction that spans centuries. Libraries burned, manuscripts destroyed, archaeological sites deliberately buried or flooded. The Great Library of Alexandria wasn't lost to accidental fire. It was systematically dismantled by forces that understood exactly what knowledge they were destroying. The Spanish conquest of the Americas wasn't just about gold and territory. It was about erasing every trace of technological knowledge that challenged European narratives about civilizational development. Mayan codices weren't burned by religious zealots. They were targeted for destruction by individuals who understood that these documents contained mathematical and astronomical knowledge that proved the existence of a global scientific tradition far older than European civilization. The systematic destruction of Native American earthworks wasn't agricultural development. It was deliberate obliteration of monuments that encoded geographical and astronomical data spanning continental distances. Yet despite centuries of systematic suppression, the evidence continues to surface through modern analytical techniques that can penetrate layers of historical revision. Ground-penetrating radar reveals buried cities beneath sites that official archaeology claims were uninhabited. Satellite imagery shows geometric patterns across landscapes that demonstrate coordinated construction efforts spanning vast geographical regions. Underwater archaeology discovers ruins of harbors, roads, and urban complexes that existed when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than today. The technological requirements for such global coordination cannot be explained through conventional theories of ancient capabilities. Managing construction projects across multiple continents would have required precision timekeeping, standardized measurement systems, and communication networks capable of transmitting complex technical information across vast distances. The mathematical precision demonstrated in these coordinated projects suggests technological infrastructure that enabled real-time coordination between engineering teams separated by oceans. But perhaps the most disturbing evidence lies in documents that describe the catastrophic events that destroyed this global civilization. Not gradual climate change or cultural decline, but sudden, coordinated destruction that targeted specific technological infrastructure and knowledge repositories. Ancient texts describe simultaneous catastrophes that struck major cities worldwide, flooding that submerged coastal civilizations within decades, and geological upheaval that buried evidence of advanced technology beneath layers of sediment and debris. The precision of these destruction events suggests they weren't natural disasters, but coordinated attacks designed to eliminate every trace of technological knowledge that might enable reconstruction. Harbor facilities destroyed, communication networks severed, manufacturing centers obliterated, and knowledge repositories systematically burned or buried. The survivors were left with fragments of information, pieces of a technological puzzle that they could preserve but no longer fully understand. The mathematical analysis reveals that these catastrophic events weren't random or coincidental. They followed patterns that suggest deliberate targeting of specific technological capabilities, coordinated timing that prevented effective response or reconstruction, and systematic elimination of infrastructure that might enable rapid recovery. The precision of this destruction indicates planning and execution that required intimate knowledge of the civilization being destroyed. This brings us to the most explosive question of all. Who possessed the knowledge and capability to systematically destroy a global technological civilization? Who had the motivation to erase every trace of advanced ancient knowledge and replace it with primitive narratives about human development? And why have modern institutions continued this pattern of suppression, maintaining false historical timelines, despite overwhelming mathematical evidence to the contrary? The answer lies in understanding that control of historical narrative equals control of human potential. If people believe that advanced civilization is a recent achievement, they remain dependent on existing power structures for technological progress. If they understand that their ancestors possessed capabilities rivaling our own, they might begin questioning why such knowledge was lost and who benefits from maintaining technological dependence. The conspiracy extends beyond simple academic gatekeeping to systematic control of human development itself. By suppressing evidence of ancient technological achievement, modern institutions maintain narratives that position current technological capabilities as the pinnacle of human development. This psychological framework keeps populations believing that progress requires submission to existing technological hierarchies rather than rediscovering capabilities that humanity possessed thousands of years ago. The mathematical evidence reveals that our ancestors understood principles of energy generation, materials science, and communication technology that we're only beginning to rediscover. Ancient texts describe power generation methods that harness natural forces, construction techniques that utilize resonance and vibration for moving massive stones, and communication systems that transmit information across vast distances without mechanical infrastructure. These weren't mystical or supernatural capabilities. They were technological applications of scientific principles that our ancestors understood, but which have been systematically suppressed to maintain technological dependence. The precision of the mathematical descriptions suggests practical knowledge based on systematic experimentation and technological development that spanned thousands of years of coordinated research and development. The implications extend far beyond historical revision to challenge the fundamental assumptions underlying modern technological civilization. If ancient peoples possessed advanced capabilities that were systematically destroyed and suppressed, then our current technological limitations may be artificially imposed rather than naturally determined. The mathematical evidence suggests that human potential for technological achievement is far greater than current educational and institutional frameworks acknowledge. The pattern of suppression reveals coordinated effort by modern institutions to maintain technological dependence by hiding evidence of human capabilities that challenge existing power structures. Universities that restrict access to ancient technical documents. Museums that hide artifacts demonstrating advanced ancient technology, and governmental agencies that classify archaeological discoveries as matters of national security. But the mathematical truth embedded in these ancient documents cannot be suppressed forever. Digital analysis techniques continue to reveal evidence of advanced ancient capabilities. Independent researchers bypass institutional gatekeepers through online collaboration, and new archaeological discoveries constantly challenge conventional historical timelines, despite coordinated efforts to suppress or discredit such findings. The revolution is already beginning as people worldwide gain access to suppressed evidence through digital networks that bypass traditional institutional control. Ancient knowledge that was hidden in restricted archives is being digitized and distributed through platforms that prevent systematic suppression. Mathematical analysis software enables independent verification of ancient calculations without requiring approval from academic gatekeepers. The evidence points to a future where humanity rediscovers capabilities that were systematically suppressed, where technological development accelerates beyond current limitations, and where understanding of human potential expands to encompass achievements that were deliberately hidden from historical memory. The mathematical precision embedded in ancient documents serves as a roadmap for rediscovering technological capabilities that our ancestors possessed, but which modern civilization has forgotten. But the most profound implication of this evidence isn't just what it reveals about ancient capabilities, it's what it suggests about human potential itself. If our ancestors could achieve mathematical precision that rivals modern capabilities, construct engineering projects that challenge current technology, and coordinate global civilization with sophistication that matches contemporary systems, then human potential extends far beyond current limitations. The suppression of this evidence represents more than historical revision. It's systematic limitation of human development itself. By maintaining false narratives about ancient capabilities, modern institutions restrict understanding of human potential and maintain technological dependence that serves existing power structures rather than enabling human advancement. The mathematical evidence embedded in these ancient documents represents a key to unlocking human potential that has been systematically suppressed for centuries. Each calculation serves as testimony to capabilities that challenge current limitations. Each coordinate measurement points toward achievements that transcend accepted boundaries. And each technological description reveals possibilities that conventional education systems refuse to acknowledge. The truth lies scattered across archives and collections worldwide, encoded in mathematical relationships that survive despite institutional attempts at suppression. The precision is undeniable, the implications are revolutionary, and the evidence points to a conclusion that challenges everything we think we know about human capability and our true potential as a species. These ancient documents aren't just historical curiosities. They're fragments of proof that human achievement is far greater than we've been allowed to believe. The mathematical evidence reveals that our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities that rival our own, achievements that have been systematically hidden to maintain false narratives about human development and technological progress. The conspiracy of silence extends across centuries, maintained by institutions that benefit from controlling technological development and suppressing evidence that might challenge their authority to define human potential. But the mathematical truth embedded in these ancient documents cannot be suppressed forever, and the precision of their calculations serves as undeniable testimony to capabilities that threaten to revolutionize our understanding of human civilization itself. The time has come to reclaim this hidden heritage, to acknowledge the mathematical evidence that proves our ancestors' achievements, and to begin the process of rediscovering the technological capabilities that were systematically erased from human memory. The precision is measurable, the implications are staggering, and the potential for human advancement is limitless once we acknowledge the truth that has been hidden in plain sight for thousands of years. The mathematical proof lies before us, embedded in ancient documents that survived despite centuries of suppression. Each calculation is a key to unlocking human potential that extends far beyond current limitations. Each measurement points toward achievements that transcend accepted boundaries, and each technological description reveals possibilities that conventional wisdom refuses to acknowledge. The evidence is undeniable, the implications are revolutionary, and the time for suppression is ending. Humanity is ready to reclaim its true heritage, to rediscover the capabilities that were systematically hidden, and to unlock the potential that has been waiting in these ancient documents for brave souls willing to challenge institutional resistance and embrace the mathematical truth of our extraordinary past. The revolution begins with acknowledgement, accelerates through investigation, and culminates in the rediscovery of human capabilities that will transform our understanding of what it means to be human in a universe where our ancestors achieved mathematical precision that rivals the stars themselves.